Chapter 4832. According to legend, the goo was cultivated by 9 poisonous insects. They were stored in a jade bottle and buried underground. It was dug out 3 years later. There was no food in the jade bottle, so the poisonous insects devoured each other. In the end, the one that devoured the most was the Goo King. This was similar to their world will's host body. They devoured each other, and the final host body of the world will was the strongest god of the world will. However, why did Lin Ling give him such a terrifying feeling? Could it be that Lin Ling was really the host body of the world will? However, how could this be possible? A little brat that he accidentally met tens of thousands of years ago was now crushing him high above, and had even become the host body of the world will. Most importantly, he seemed to be the host body of the world will that was even more powerful than him. How can you be the host body of the world will? Lien Letian exclaimed. Are you still going to say that now? Lin Ling looked at Lien Letian coldly. I'll say back then someone from the underworld came and saved me. They eradicated the Dragon Valley. Lien Letian hurriedly said. Eradicated? Lin Ling frowned. Deep in his eyes a flame of anger burned. He was indebted to the Dragon Valley, and now it was eradicated by the underworld? Are they all dead? Lin Ling stopped and stared coldly at Lien Letian. This I don't know either. Lien Letian shook his head in panic and kept waving his hands. Bang! Suddenly Lin Ling's palm grabbed Lien Letian's shoulder. A strange force poured out of his palm and gradually corroded Lien Letian's shoulder. Ah! Lien Letian let out a painful cry, as if he had met his natural enemy. At this moment, he was even more certain that Lin Ling was the host body of the world will. Because the force in Lin Ling's palm was the power of the world will, and it was extremely powerful. In fact, even Lin Ling did not notice this force. He only felt that he had activated the power of God. I'll say they are not dead, the dragon god is not dead. And some of the direct bloodlines are not dead. But I don't know where they were taken to. Lien Letian finally spoke. Lin Ling's expression turned cold. He then retracted his palm, and Lien Letian finally let out a sigh of relief. Lin Ling did not say a word and continued flying into the distance with an extremely cold expression. Lin Ling did not believe Lien Letian's words. He felt that Lien Letian was hiding something from him. However, he wasn't in a hurry. After he obtained the Shrine of Ice's Dao Realm fragment, he planned to help Dragon Valley and the others. Where are we going now? However, his eyes kept flickering, making it hard to tell what he was thinking. This Lien Letian is quite extraordinary. Even though I've devoured his soul energy, he probably still has some tricks up his sleeve. To be sure, I have to figure out what he's up to before making a move. Lin Ling was silent. In fact, he was also thinking about how to control Lien Letian and learn everything he knew. Not long after, a huge snowy mountain appeared in front of them. There was an endless snowstorm on the snowy mountain. It was extremely terrifying. The mountain towered into the clouds. They could vaguely see a dazzling ice crystal palace on top of the mountain, the Shrine of Ice. Lin Ling's eyes instantly lit up. He then looked at the huge snowy mountain and suddenly realized that there was no path to go up the mountain. The only way was to go up the mountain. Lin Ling, don't tell me you're thinking of climbing the mountain. Looking at Lin Ling, the corner of Lien Letian's mouth twitched. Lin Ling only smiled and ignored him. He used his divinity to form a chain that trapped Lien Letian in the depths of his soul. Then he dragged Lien Letian up the mountain. You're crazy. Even a high god wouldn't dare to underestimate these snowstorms. You and I are only mid-gods. Lien Letian exclaimed and kept shaking his head. I'm not going. Although you and I are both mid-gods, I'm not an ordinary mid-god. As for you, I reckon you won't be afraid of the snowstorms. You won't die. At most, you'll suffer some physical pain. Lin Ling finally spoke. After sneering, he shot toward the snowy mountain. Rumble! The snowstorm came, as if it could freeze the divinity of a god. It's so cold. Lin Ling, wait, don't run too fast. Lien Letian was tied up by Lin Ling and seriously injured by Lin Ling naturally. He couldn't resist the snowstorm's attack. He was also crying out because of the cold. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't care about him at all. He merged his talents and the gray robe appeared. His strength doubled as he rushed toward the mountain peak. Moreover, his speed was very fast, causing Lien Letian, who was behind him, to be dragged along like a dog, letting out painful groans and screams. Lin Ling noticed this and sneered. Instead of slowing down, he sped up. Time passed quietly. The closer they got to the mountain peak, the stronger the snowstorm. Even a mid-level high god would have to avoid the cold. Lin Ling's hair and eyebrows were already full of frost. When he exhaled, the air immediately turned into ice dregs. I'm almost at the mountain peak. Lin Ling raised his head and looked ahead. He finally slowed down. Behind him, Lien Letian had already turned into an ice sculpture. His face was full of pain and anger, but his expression was also frozen. Bang! After a long time, Lin Ling finally stepped onto the mountain peak. He looked around and saw a huge ice palace. Surprisingly, the sun was shining brightly on the mountain peak. It wasn't cold at all. Instead, it was like spring all year round. Moreover, there were quite a few people on the mountain peak. There were dozens of them. These people all had the strength of a high-level deity. Moreover, they looked highly respected and sage-like. Of course, they were also staring at Lin Ling. Their expressions full of astonishment. Fellow cultivator, did you climb up the mountain? Someone cupped his hands and smiled at Lin Ling. That's right. Lin Ling's eyes flickered slightly, but then he smiled. He could sense that these people were all very strong. Most of them were late-stage high gods. Impressive, impressive. Everyone nodded courteously. They didn't underestimate Lin Ling, because being able to reach the Shrine of Ice meant that he had a certain level of strength. Furthermore, those who were able to come here all had great backgrounds. Lin Ling even saw the Yellow Emperor's men among them. He had only met them once before, so he wasn't familiar with them. Lin Ling also didn't intend to reveal his identity. Where's this popsicle? Someone suddenly pointed behind Lin Ling. Lien Letian was still frozen into an ice sculpture. But at this moment he was slowly melting. A friend of mine. Lin Ling replied with a smile. Everyone blinked and smiled faintly, but they didn't expose him. Chapter 48-33. Lin Ling, I'm not done with you. At this time, Lien Letian finally woke up. He let out an angry roar, his whole body trembling with anger. Previously, he was dragged by Lin Ling to climb the mountain. It could be said that he had experienced a blizzard. Even his dantian and soul were frozen. That kind of pain was unimaginable. Why? I brought you here. You should thank me. Lin Ling looked at Lien Letian strangely. Thank my ass. You only know how to run. You don't understand my feelings at all. Lien Letian roared and became even more angry. Lin Ling. Among the dozens of experts present, one person's eyes flashed. After pondering for a while, his face changed greatly. He walked out and politely bowed. So it's Your Excellency Lin Ling. It's an honor to meet you. This person was one of the Yellow Emperor's men. Moreover, his status in the Yellow Emperor's tomb was not low. Therefore, he was very clear about Lin Ling's importance to the Yellow Emperor. My name is Zhao Hashan. People call me Fortune God Zhao. That man introduced himself. So it's Senior Zhao. It's an honor to meet you. Lin Ling had recognized him long ago. It was just that they had only met once, so he did not greet him before. I don't dare to call myself senior. Most of the people who can come here are of the same generation. Calling me senior is too much for me. If Your Excellency Lin Ling doesn't mind, just call me Brother Zhao. Zhao Hashan immediately waved his hand and said, what a joke. Even the Yellow Emperor's confidant had to give face to Lin Ling. How could he dare to call himself senior in front of Lin Ling? Then I'll take the liberty to call you Brother Zhao. Lin Ling cupped his hands and said. He looked around and suddenly asked, Brother Zhao, are you also here to visit the Master of the Shrine of Ice? Yes, but it's not a visit. It's just an exchange. The Master of the Shrine of Ice is the Iceberg Taoist. He has comprehended the universe's Tao. If you exchange Tao with him, you will benefit greatly. Zhao Hashan said. Generally speaking, Frost Taoist is in seclusion to comprehend the great Tao of the universe. He comes out once every 100 years. This is also the time for us to discuss the great Tao of the universe. Your Excellency Lin Ling, you've arrived just in time. That's right. We've been communicating with each other for over 1,000 years. We come here every 100 years. The rest of the people said with a smile. They were also very polite to Lin Ling. Because they saw Zhao Hashan being polite to Lin Ling, they all guessed that this Lin Ling's background was not small either. Moreover, even though they had sensed that Lin Ling was only a mid-level deity, they didn't dare to slight Lin Ling in the slightest. That's great. I also want to pay a visit to Senior Frost Taoist. Why don't we go together? Lin Ling was overjoyed and quickly said with a smile, It's fine, it's fine. Exchanging the great Tao of the universe regardless of seniority or seniority. As long as you have the heart to pursue the great Tao, it's fine. Everyone nodded and did not object to Lin Ling's participation. Next, everyone led Lin Ling forward, chatting and laughing along the way. As for behind the crowd, Lin Ling was still dragging Lian Letian as if he was dragging a dog. Damn Lin Ling, he doesn't treat me as a human at all. When I have the chance, I'll definitely make him regret knowing me. However, this Lin Ling was just a little kid in the void of the 9 regions back then. Why has he changed so much? Even these respected seniors know him. Among these people, one of them is the embroidered cloud dragon killer, an ancient figure from the prehistoric era. I heard that in the area of the Tao Pagoda, he doesn't join any forces, but no one dares to provoke him. Lian Letian was angry and shocked. He was angry because Lin Ling only knew how to abuse him. He was surprised because Lin Ling did not seem to be a fledgling junior. Ha ha ha, I've kept everyone waiting. After entering the Shrine of Ice, a hearty voice sounded. Then, a short old man wearing a white robe walked over with a smile to welcome them. Ice Taoist. Everyone cupped their hands and bowed to the old man. It could be seen that they had known each other for a long time. Lin Ling also stared at the old man and was secretly shocked. This was the master of the Shrine of Ice that Guangchengzi had told him that as long as he completed his cultivation problem, he would be able to obtain a large number of Tao realm fragments. A strange feeling arose in his heart. Because old Sangui had once told him that there were many deities in the Tao realm who were transformed from Tao realm wills. As long as one completed their wishes, one would be rewarded. However, no matter how he looked at the person in front of him, he did not seem to be transformed from Tao realm wills. Who are these two? After greeting everyone, Ice Taoist suddenly looked at Lin Ling and Lian Letian and asked. Lin Ling and Lian Letian were newcomers, so he naturally recognized them at a glance. This is His Excellency Lin Ling. Zhao Hashan immediately introduced them. Oh, so you are Zhao Hashan's disciple. Ice Taoist stroked his beard with a look of realization. After all, Lin Ling was only a mid-god, so he naturally thought that he was more of a junior. Ice Taoist, don't talk nonsense. How would I dare to be his master? It is my fortune to be his elder brother. Zhao Hashan was shocked. Lin Ling was a favorite of the Yellow Emperor. How would he dare to accept him as a disciple? In fact, between him and Lin Ling, it was more like he was trying to curry favor with Lin Ling. I see. Then is brother Lin Ling also here to discuss the great Tao of the universe? Ice Taoist's eyes lit up and then he smiled politely. This is not really a discussion. I am just here to learn. Lin Ling also replied politely, but he was depressed. Everyone present was a senior, so their understanding of the great Tao was naturally deeper than his. How could he join in the discussion? He could only hope that the light ball left behind by Guangchengzi would be of some help. It's fine, it's fine. There is no order here. Anyone can express their opinion. Everyone follow me. Ice Taoist waved his hand nonchalantly and led Lin Ling and the rest forward. Then they entered a huge ice palace. The ice palace was filled with calligraphy and paintings. The paintings were written with brush strokes. They looked simple, but each stroke carried the flavor of the great Tao of the universe. It was as if each stroke was one of the necessary laws to form the universe. However, when all the strokes were connected together, a word was formed, and at the same time a universe was formed. Amazing! Lin Ling stared at the ice palace and found the word, Xian, Yi, and Yuan. However, these words looked simple, but they were extremely profound. Lin Ling sensed something related to Lin Ling's universe. However, as for what it was, Lin Ling could not figure it out. The great Tao of the universe had always been profound. Those who could completely grasp it were already the masters of the universe, controlling the life and death of the entire universe. For example, the Tao Pagoda that Lin Ling was currently in was actually a universe. If he could understand the great Tao here, he would be able to transcend the restrictions of the laws here. Your Excellency Lin Ling, could it be that you have an opinion? Or does Your Excellency Lin Ling also know about calligraphy? Seeing Lin Ling exclaim, Ice Taoist immediately asked with a smile. Chapter 4834. Never learned it? Everyone was dumbfounded. If he had never learned it, he couldn't discuss it with them. Moreover, he wasn't even qualified to ask for advice, let alone discuss it. After all, even if he wanted to ask for advice, he had to have some understanding of the great Tao and calligraphy. He had to understand what others were saying. Moreover, the calligraphy and paintings here were actually written by Iceberg Taoist in the form of calligraphy that he understood about the great Tao of the universe. Idiot! Seeing that Lin Ling was completely out of place, even Lu Tian, who was tied behind him, gloated. Actually, although I don't understand it, I can learn it now. At this time, Lin Ling also said modestly. Previously, he was only aiming for the Tao state fragment, but after seeing the calligraphy with the great Tao of the universe, he was also interested. After all, his current Lin Ling universe wasn't very stable. If he was familiar with some of the great Tao of the universe, it would be easier for him to control the Lin Ling universe and grow faster. Learn it now. Everyone's expression became even more strange. The great Tao took 3,000 years. This meant that it would take at least 3,000 years to comprehend the great Tao. In fact, this was a polite way of saying it because if one really wanted to comprehend the great Tao, even 3,000 years might not be enough. However, Lin Ling wanted to learn it now. Everyone suddenly felt awkward. One of the more impatient ones said, The great Tao is vast like smoke. It's impossible to learn it in a short period of time. Not to mention resonating with the great Tao, even communicating with and sensing the great Tao is very difficult. This sentence could be said to have completely sentenced Lin Ling to death. Lin Ling suddenly smiled awkwardly and felt a little depressed. After all, this was what Guangchengzi asked him to do. He really didn't prepare for it. I'll just take a look. Lin Ling waved his hand and didn't bother to join the discussion. He went to look at the calligraphy around him. What an amazing calligraphy. It's clearly a few simple strokes, but when combined together, it really looks like a big universe. Moreover, these strokes may seem simple, but in fact each stroke is just right and very mature. A slight deviation or delay in writing will change the entire situation. The great Tao is ultimately the comprehension of the mind and doesn't represent combat strength. However, it's very important. Unfortunately, it's too difficult. No wonder today's gods determine combat strength by divine power and completely abandon the comprehension of the great Tao. Lin Ling continued. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he found that the white light ball that Guangchengzi had left for him was emitting a gentle light. Suddenly, a profound comprehension Lin Lin's Tites, S's, SSS, SSS, S Senior Guangchengzi's white balls, meaning is, hidden within. Comprehension of the great Tao may seem profound, but after thoroughly comprehending it, it's only a matter of a veil. Lin Ling's became brighter and brighter. The power of divinity appeared in his hands. He closed his eyes and began to draw in the air. The word he wrote was Xian. Xian. Xian seemed simple, but it was actually tens of millions of complex words. The first stroke, the angle, and even the strength of the stroke affected the entire universe. Lin Ling's was difficult at the beginning, but he gradually became like a fish in water. Xian seemed to contain the laws and order of the universe. The universe's great Tao may seem close, but it's like the moon in the water. You can see it, but you can't touch it. All of you have been comprehending the great Tao for millions of years. Now, most of you have only touched the great Tao and sensed it. To truly reach the point of resonating with the great Tao requires tens of millions of years. That's the might of an era. At this moment, Icy Frost Taoist was still discussing with the crowd. Everyone nodded. Their brows were sometimes furrowed and sometimes relaxed. Some were enlightened, while others were still puzzled. As expected of Icy Frost Taoist, We're still at the stage of sensing the Great Tao, but you've already reached the point of resonating with the Great Tao. I reckon that by the time we can sense the Great Tao and touch it, Icy Frost Taoist will have reached the level of creating the Great Tao. At that time, you'll be able to create the universe with a wave of your hand. That's right. Moreover, the gods of today pursue combat power. In fact, they don't know that comprehension of the state of mind is the end. Even if I don't have the power of divinity, I can still create the Great Tao. Any god will be changed by the Great Tao. Any god will be controlled by the universe. Icy Frost Taoist, you're indeed an expert of our generation. The crowd spoke one after another, their expressions full of admiration. The resonance of the Great Tao is not about time but about comprehension. Of course, if one perseveres in comprehending it, tens of millions of years or even several eras later, there's still a chance to comprehend the resonance of the Great Tao. As for comprehending it in a short period of time, it's impossible. After all, it's a divine ability. Icy Frost Taoist stroked his beard and said politely. However, halfway through his sentence, his pupils suddenly narrowed. He felt that the air around him had suddenly resonated. Even the words around the ice palace seemed to be resonating. And this was the sign of the resonance of the Great Tao. Oh my God! The others also reacted and shifted their gazes. Only then did they realize that the resonance of the Great Tao was coming from a corner of the ice sculpture. There was only one person in that corner who was staring at the sky and writing a big word in front of him. This person was Lin Ling. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Who is it? Icy Frost Taoist thought that it was Lin Ling. However, on second thought, Lin Ling had just come to comprehend the Great Tao. Naturally, it couldn't be Lin Ling. He led the crowd and rushed over, looking around curiously. Who is it? Icy Frost Taoist asked as he searched. Who? What do you mean by who? Lin Ling frowned. He was curious as to why these people were so anxious. It's the person who caused the resonance of the Great Tao. Zhao Hashan also said anxiously. Resonance of the Great Tao? What's that? Lin Ling frowned even more. It's hard to explain. After all, you just comprehended the Great Tao. Icy Frost Taoist sighed and couldn't be bothered to explain. He continued to ask, was there anyone else here besides you? No, it was just me. Lin Ling said. Chapter 4835. Senior Ice Frost, what is the resonance of the Great Tao? What's wrong with you guys? You don't look right. Lin Ling asked with a frown. It's a long story. How about this, I'll show you. Ice Frost Taoist shook his head and drew with his divine energy. The resonance of the Great Tao is not easy to comprehend. Watch carefully. Watch carefully. Divine energy appeared in his hand and he drew in the air. The moment the first stroke appeared, the void shook. The terrifying thing was that this stroke did not have any divine energy. It did not even have any offensive power. It only had the feeling of a law. As expected of Ice Frost Taoist, everyone present could feel the Great Tao and they all cheered. In the end, the great laws of the universe were not the power of divinity. Thus, they didn't seem to have any offensive or defensive capabilities. But once the great laws of the universe took form, they would possess their own Great Tao. Their might would be terrifying. Any power of divinity would be controlled by the great laws. The second stroke. Ice Frost Taoist's face turned serious as he drew again. The void shook again as if a miniature universe had appeared. In this universe, life, death, blooming and withering quietly took shape. The third stroke. The fourth stroke. Ice Frost Taoist continued to write big words that took shape in the void. The entire void shook. When all the strokes were drawn, they combined perfectly. It was as if it could not be done a second earlier or a second later. A huge Xian word floated in the air. It looked 5 meters big, but it had already become a universe. This Xian word combined with the universe and formed a resonance. It was as if another Tao was being born. People even noticed that any divine energy was ineffective in this Xian word. This was because this small universe already had its own laws. Any divine energy in it would have to obey the laws of this small universe. Unfortunately, this small universe was still too small, so it had yet to mature. However, this resonance of the Great Tao was a seed that would create a great universe in the future. This was also the reason why people studied the Great Tao and gave up on divine energy. These were two different paths. At this moment, Ice Frost Taoist closed his eyes and quietly recovered. Although it was just a word, it consumed more energy than any divine ability. It made him feel a little exhausted. The other gods, on the other hand, were trying to comprehend the gigantic Xian character as they recalled the process of writing it. After all, there were many words that resonated with the Great Tao in the Ice Palace. However, they were all written by Ice Snow Taoist in the past. This was the first time they had seen Ice Snow Taoist write words that resonated with the Great Tao. Words passed down the Great Tao. That's right. Words spread throughout the universe, including countless worlds and the great laws of the universe. After a short moment, they opened their eyes successively and spoke with shock. All of them seemed to have attained enlightenment. Although this kind of enlightenment was very, very little, only a trace, it still made them incomparably happy. This is the resonance of the Great Path. Previously, I detected the resonance of the Great Path in this direction. That's why I asked you. Can you understand it? At this moment, Icy Taoist opened his eyes and smiled at Lin Ling. Then he shook his head and said, "You can't even sense the Great Tao. I've told you so much, but I don't think you understand." Is this the resonance of the Great Tao you were talking about? Lin Ling blinked, and the power of gods appeared in his palm. Then he drew on the air. Moreover, his stroke was 10 meters long. Most importantly, compared to Icy Taoist's stroke, Lin Ling's stroke was as smooth as flowing water. It was as though the universe was formed naturally. In just a few moments, a huge Xian word that was 10 meters long floated in the sky. Rumble. The resonance of the Great Tao was as though the Tao state had resonated with the word. Because these two were the same universe. The only difference was that one was big, and the other was small. As for Icy Taoist's Xian word, compared to Lin Ling's, it was like the difference between a shrimp and a shark. It was like the difference between clouds and mud. Resonance of the Great Tao, forming its own rule, stabilizing the world. Icy Taoist stared at the huge Xian word and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't help but stare at Lin Ling. He realized that Lin Ling was still blinking. Blinking your ass. Didn't you say that you have different das? Didn't you say that you wanted to ask for advice? This is not just asking for advice, it's giving advice. Icy Taoist felt as though he had been struck by lightning. He recalled telling Lin Ling that Lin Ling didn't even have any Tao comprehension. Even if he had the resonance of the Great Tao, Lin Ling wouldn't be able to detect it. Now he felt as though he had been slapped in the face. Moreover, it was from both sides. He even thought that Lin Ling was toying with him. This word is bigger than Icy Taoist's and the resonance is deeper. Most importantly, didn't you see? The speed at which he wrote the word Xian is faster than Icy Taoist's. At this rate he can create his own universe. Everyone was dumbfounded. It was as if they wanted to tear apart Lin Ling's face to see what secrets he was hiding. Most importantly, Lin Ling was blinking innocently as if he had just learned it. Lin Ling's innocent look made them want to give him a good beating. Icy Taoist had been comprehending the Great Tao for 10 million years, and was barely able to achieve the resonance of the Great Tao. On the other hand, there was no need to mention them. They were at least 5 million years old, and now they were barely able to sense the Grand Tao. Looking at Lin Ling, he had only just learned it. Comparing oneself to others is infuriating. Even Letian, who was far away, was furious. He thought that Lin Ling was too shameless. How could they know that Lin Ling had indeed just comprehended it? It was from Guangqingzi's ball of light. Lin Ling also didn't expect that the ball of light, which was originally left to guide Icy Taoist, would allow him to comprehend the resonance of the Great Tao and gain a preliminary understanding of the laws of the universe. Lin Ling's universe was a natural law. Lin Ling didn't set up any laws. But now, Lin Ling had learned a preliminary understanding of the laws of the universe. His control over Lin Ling's universe was smoother, and he could control more. It seemed that Guangqingzi was not only helping him, but also giving him guidance. Guangqingzi was an ancient giant god. The laws of the universe that he knew were naturally more powerful. Your Excellency Lin Ling, didn't you say that you didn't understand the laws of the universe? Icy Taoist asked Lin Ling with a wry smile after recovering from his shock. Well, I just learned it. Lin Ling continued blinking. Blinking again? Icy Taoist nearly went berserk. He had been smiling bitterly for 50 million years. He had comprehended the laws of the universe, but the word Xian he wrote was only 5 meters long. But Lin Ling had just comprehended it, and the word he wrote was 10 meters long. Your Excellency Lin Ling, are you here to slap my face? Chapter 4836. If Lin Ling left or did not pay attention to a certain place, the laws of the universe would not work according to his will. It was like rain. When you stretched out your hand, your palm could stop the rain from falling. But after you left, the rain would still drip to the ground. That was the logic. That was why Lin Ling asked, "How about this? Let's try using the laws of the universe." Icy Frost Taoist was also interested. Although he often sparred with others, most of the time, he was the one who gave the most pointers. Now that he had finally met a god who was on par with him, he was naturally interested. "Don't worry, I won't let you spar for nothing. I'll give you 1,000,000 Tao fragments." Icy Frost Taoist laughed. Lin Ling's body shook. The reward was finally here. 1,000,000 Tao fragments would qualify him to enter the Tao Pagoda. Okay. There was no reason for Lin Ling not to agree, but he asked doubtfully, "Can great precepts also clash?" The laws of the universe he knew were in Lin Ling's universe, where he could use the void of the entire universe to suppress his opponent. However, this was the Tao realm which had its own laws of the universe. If Lin Ling used his own laws, he would probably be rejected by the Tao realm. Yes, we only need the laws of the two universes to clash. As long as it's not too long, the laws of the Tao realm will not restrict us. Icy Frost Taoist said with a smile. Then he floated back and reminded, "Your Excellency Lin Ling, carve all your understanding of the Tao in words and attack me. Because we are all beginners of the laws of the universe, we can only use words to display the means we can use. We can't use them at will." Understood. Lin Ling nodded. No wonder the Ice Temple was mostly written in words. It turned out that it was the most convenient way to display the laws of the universe. Then, Lin Ling closed his eyes and displayed all his understanding of the Tao before writing it in front of him. In fact, when it came to understanding the Tao, Lin Ling's understanding of it was not shallow. However, compared to the ancient giant gods, his understanding was like the hair of an ox. But now, with Master Guangqing's comprehension, Lin Ling also gained considerable benefits, his comprehension increasing greatly. Moreover, he also added in Lin Ling's comprehension of the universe. Many of the laws in Lin Ling's universe were naturally formed. Lin Ling could control them at will, but he couldn't create them. Now, Lin Ling was imitating those laws and carving them out. On the other side, Taoist Ice Snow had his eyes closed and was motionless. At this moment, all the words in the Ice Palace suddenly floated towards him, turning into ink and disappearing into his body. He had actually activated the resonance of the great Tao that he had written down all these years. However, this was clearly unfair. After all, this was a superimposed great cosmos law. Obviously, he intended to suppress Lin Ling and defeat Lin Ling. This brat's comprehension ability is too terrifying. He must be suppressed a little. Tell him that the true comprehension of the great Tao is something that can't be learned overnight. In terms of comprehension of the great Tao, he seems to be above me. However, I know more about the great cosmos law than him. This time, I should be able to convince him wholeheartedly. Taoist Ice Snow kept saying as he closed his eyes and wrote down the great cosmos law. This time his stroke was 50 meters long. Perhaps because of the pressure, he also performed exceptionally and wrote down the proudest great Tao resonance in the past tens of millions of years. Good. Taoist Ice Snow couldn't help but become excited when he realized this. He was secretly grateful to Lin Ling. It was because of Lin Ling's encouragement that he was able to perform exceptionally well. He was very clear about this. Then, he continued to carve the great cosmos law and looked forward to hearing the cheers of the people. However, the surroundings were very quiet. It was so quiet that no sound could be heard. This made Taoist Ice Snow think that everyone was frightened by him. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the gods first. However, with just one look he almost felt uneasy. This was because the gods around him didn't even look at him. What was going on? He subconsciously looked at Lin Ling. Then he became uneasy and fearful. This was because Lin Ling had written the word, Xian. It was actually 100 meters wide. He was 50 meters long, and Lin Ling was 100 meters long. *CK, this guy did it on purpose. Isn't it only 10 meters long? Could it be that he was pretending to be weak and waiting for me to fall into his trap? Senior Taoist Ice Snow, I'm done. Please give me some pointers. At this time, Lin Ling finally opened his eyes and said solemnly. He realized that this seemingly simple word was extremely difficult to control. It was even more difficult to control than Pengu's strike and the universe's three extremes break. It was as if countless great cosmos laws were combined in the word and could collapse and fall apart at any time. And Lin Ling could only maintain it so that the word would not collapse. Of course, during this process, Lin Ling also felt that his soul power was increasing. He had benefited a lot. Pointers? Taoist Ice Snow almost cursed it out loud. Such a big word. Who's going to give who pointers? Come on. Then Taoist Ice Snow shouted and activated the word in his hand. The two big words that were mixed with countless great cosmos laws slowly collided. What was scary was that after the collision it was extremely calm. It was as if ice and snow were melting and dissipating continuously. Now it was time to see which word would dissipate faster. But everyone was blinking. One was 50 meters long and the other was 100 meters long. It seemed that it was easy to tell which word would dissipate faster. *CK. At this time, Taoist Ice Snow shouted in his heart. He controlled his own great cosmos laws to collide and immediately realized how terrifying Lin Ling's great cosmos laws were. How was this great cosmos laws? This was a stable universe. Could it be that Lin Ling already had a universe? Because in Lin Ling's word, not only did it contain birth, old age, illness and death, blooming and withering, it also contained the restrictions of God's energy and various other powers. It even contained its own great cosmos laws. It was not an exaggeration to say that it had everything. Bang! But at this time, Lin Ling's huge word exploded and completely dissipated. Looking at Taoist Ice Snow's word, although it did not explode, there were not many strokes left. It was clear who was better. Everyone was in an uproar. As expected of Taoist Ice Snow. I'm convinced. Lin Ling could not help but feel ashamed. He realized that his great cosmos laws were very unstable and could not be compared to Taoist Ice Snow. Convinced. Taoist Ice Snow almost wanted to curse. Naturally, he knew why Lin Ling had lost. There were too many Dharma laws in the universe, and Lin Ling couldn't control them all at once. However, if Lin Ling had comprehended the Great Tao for a longer period of time, controlling them would be as easy as flipping his hand. And Taoist Ice Snow's great cosmos laws, be it in terms of quantity or variety, were completely inferior to Lin Ling's. Chapter 4837. Ice Snow Taoist's great law of the universe is more stable. I hope Ice Snow Taoist can give me some pointers. Lin Ling said humbly. Stability was Lin Ling's biggest problem at the moment. If his Lin Ling universe was unstable, everything would be in vain. Pointers again? Ice Snow Taoist smiled bitterly. How was he supposed to give her pointers? He was too ashamed to do so. Lin Yun had instantly comprehended the Great Tao resonance, and had comprehended more great law of the universe than him. If he were to give pointers, it would be shameless and a slap in the face. Sir Lin Ling, as long as you comprehend more, it won't be a big problem. After a long while, Taoist Ice Snow finally managed to squeeze out a sentence. A mouthful of blood was stuck in his chest, and he almost spat it out. I see. Thank you. Lin Ling was enlightened and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He had benefited a lot from his earlier comprehension. If he were to use it on Lin Ling universe, the entire universe would be more stable. Therefore, Lin Ling was naturally happy. Sir Lin Ling, I have another thing to ask you. I don't know if I should say it. Ice Snow Taoist said awkwardly. What is it? Ice Snow Taoist is a senior. Why can't I say it? Senior, please speak your mind. Lin Ling blinked and said politely. That's right. Can you give me some pointers? Ice Snow Taoist blushed and said shamelessly. Lin Ling was stunned and blinked again. Don't worry. I'll give you 5 million Tao state fragments as compensation. Ice Snow Taoist said quickly. Ice Snow Taoist, you are too polite. We agreed to learn from each other. Using money to talk will affect our relationship too much. Don't worry, I Linling will tell you everything I know. Linling waved his hand and said, by the way, I happen to need a lot of treasures for cultivation. Can I have 6 million Tao state fragments as compensation? Sure, it's a small matter. Ice Snow Taoist was stunned and immediately waved his hand with a smile. He hurried forward and humbly asked for pointers. Seeing the two of them talking, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. What happened to asking for advice? How did it become Linling's guidance? Ice and Snow Taoist humbly listened. Your Excellency Linling, I have 1 million Tao realm fragments here. I have some too. Then they didn't want to miss the opportunity. They hurried to Linling and humbly asked for advice. Where did this bastard get all these skills from? Even Lution's face darkened when he saw the primordial giant gods surrounding Linling. He could tell that these people were incomparably polite to Linling. This meant that if something happened to Linling, these people would definitely lend a helping hand. And this was clearly not something that even Lution wanted to see. Not long ago, he had used the power of the will of the world to secretly inform the god of the underworld and asked the nearby gods of the underworld to come and help. Originally, if Linling was alone, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to stop the underworld's experts. But now it was hard to say. So that's how it is. Your Excellency Linling, your words have enlightened me. Yes, a problem that has troubled me for millions of years was actually solved by you with just one sentence. I'm convinced. Your Excellency Linling, thank you. The gods surrounded Linling, and Linling was like an ancient giant god giving a sermon. His words were clear and logical, causing the gods to blush and tremble with excitement. Your Excellency Linling's comprehension of the great Tao is really like that of an ancient giant god. Ice and Snow Taoist even gave Linling a thumbs up. Linling secretly blushed with shame. Although he already had some comprehension of the great Tao and had his own universe, when it came to giving advice to these people, he naturally couldn't compare. They were all old monsters who had comprehended the great Tao for tens of millions of years. For Linling to be able to give them advice, this was because of the light ball left behind by Guangchengzi. The fairy of the 9 heavens found the square prison for me. I didn't expect it to help me so much. Linling secretly sighed. If not for the square prison, even if Linling had the Chaos Divine formula, it would be 1,000 times more difficult for him to grow in the Tao realm. With the square prison, Linling seemed to have a cheat, and his growth speed was 1,000 times faster than others. There are many gods in the square prison. It seems like I have to visit them more when I'm free. Oh right, there's also Monkey King. Moreover, there are 3 cells in the final prison. They are Guangchengzi, Monkey King, and I don't know who the last one is. However, to be locked in the final prison, he must have a powerful background. Linling's heart was filled with anticipation. He knew that he had gained a lot from this trip. The number of Tao realm fragments had already reached 10 million. He just didn't know if 10 million Tao realm fragments were enough to exchange for the treasures he needed to break through. Rumble. At this moment, the entire snow mountain suddenly shook, and a large amount of snow fell from the shrine of ice. What's going on? Everyone frowned, and they were instantly displeased. Previously, under Linling's guidance, they had all gained enlightenment. However, just as they were about to gain enlightenment, someone had immediately interrupted them. This kind of interruption was tantamount to having one's father killed. After all, it would be very difficult for them to return to the state they were in before. Hand over Lian Letian, or I'll flatten this place. At the same time, outside the snow mountain, an arrogant voice sounded. Young sect master, don't be afraid. The Sky Nether sect is here. Whoever dares to touch you will be killed without mercy. Sir, I don't know who you are, but I guess you don't know who we are. We are from the underworld. Now that you dare to kidnap our young sect master, you have been targeted by the underworld. Regret it, repent. I'll give you 3 breaths time to bring our young sect master out. Following that, a domineering voice sounded like thunder, blasting into the snow mountain. Ice Taoist and the rest trembled, and their eyes turned red. They had just been interrupted, but they were unwilling to give up on the enlightenment, so they entered the state of enlightenment again. However, who knew that the people outside would repeatedly seek death and disturb them, not giving them a chance to live? This is so infuriating. Ice Taoist's face was extremely ferocious. The deities were also gnashing their teeth. Seeing this scene, Lien Letian wanted to cry. Young sect master? You don't have to be afraid. I'm not afraid now, but you'll be afraid later. He had been paying attention to these deities and found that they were all late-stage superior deities, and a few of them were even peak superior deities. The most terrifying one was Ice Taoist, who he could not see through. He was probably an existence that surpassed superior deities. If the Sky Nether sect wanted to fight against these old monsters, they would be sending themselves to their deaths. 1. 2. What made Lien Letian speechless was that outside the snow mountain, the deities from the underworld had actually counted. He was afraid that before 3 could be counted, these old monsters had already killed their way out. Kill them. As expected, the deities were furious and rushed out of the snow mountain. Chapter 48:38. Rumble. Snow swirled in the air as heaven and earth shook. Around the majestic silver snow mountain, lights flickered like fireflies. Sometimes there was a deafening roar, and sometimes there was a blinding light. Who are you? Why are you attacking us? An angry voice drifted out, as if it spread through heaven and earth. Who are you? We are only here to look for Lien Letian. Why are you trying to kill us? Following that, more and more voices could be heard, and these voices were mixed with depression. Who are we? We are your grandfathers. Don't waste your breath on them. Kill them. If you are frustrated, we are even more frustrated. Unfortunately, the other side acted as if they had met their father's murderer. They did not bother to waste their breath and attack the people in front of them. They were naturally Icy Taoist and the rest. Moreover, they were indeed frustrated. Because who had they offended? This group of people had been arrogant the moment they arrived and had repeatedly interrupted their enlightenment. Who could they complain to? One had to know that this was an enlightenment that was hard to come by in tens of thousands of years. After a long time under the snowstorm, the voices gradually died down. Only a dozen people flew towards the snow mountain. Lien Letian had been staring into the distance. When he saw Icy Taoist and the rest return, he could not help but sigh. Although he knew that the battle was one-sided, he still felt upset when he saw Icy Taoist and the rest return. Sky Nether sect had come at the wrong time. They were here to deliver their heads. Your Excellency Lin Ling. At this moment, Icy Taoist and the rest walked towards Lin Ling and handed Lin Ling brocade pouches. These brocade pouches contained a large number of treasures and Tao state fragments. They were obtained from the people from Sky Nether sect. This. Lin Ling was shocked. Your Excellency Lin Ling, please do something for us. How about you write the word Xian in this ice palace? Icy Taoist said sincerely to Lin Ling. Although their enlightenment had been interrupted, if Lin Ling left the word Xian, they could use it to gain enlightenment. How much they could gain would depend on their comprehension. Sure. Lin Ling nodded. After collecting so many Dao realm fragments, he had also earned quite a bit. Naturally, he would not refuse. After that, Lin Ling spent 2 hours to carve a 100-meter-long Xian character on the ice sculpture. And this Xian character was all-encompassing, mixed with a large number of laws of the universe. It was also the best Great Dao resonance Lin Ling had ever written. His Excellency Lin Ling is truly a god. The resonance of the Great Dao that he writes is getting better and better. Looking at the word Xian hanging in the ice palace, the Frost Taoist couldn't help but praise. Brother Lin Ling, are you leaving? Zhao Hashan looked at Lin Ling and said. He and the other gods did not plan to leave. They stayed behind to comprehend the Xian character left behind by Lin Ling. Yes, I have something to do, so I have to leave. Lin Ling nodded. His current goal was to gather enough treasures to break through to the next realm, and then enter the Dao Pagoda to cultivate. Therefore, there was no need for him to stay in the Shrine of Ice for too long. Moreover, he wanted to find out the whereabouts of the Dragon Valley from Lien Letian. However, this guy was very cunning. It would not be easy to get information out of him. That's a pity. Zhao Hashan couldn't help but shake his head. Then he looked at Lin Ling and said, "Your Excellency, Lin Ling rarely comes here. Why don't you rest here for a few days before leaving?" He naturally didn't want Lin Ling to leave so soon. He still wanted to ask Lin Ling about many things related to the laws of Great Tao. Lin Ling pondered for a while and finally nodded. For the next 3 days, Lin Ling rested here temporarily, and at the same time he cultivated and stabilized his realm. He discovered that he was getting closer and closer to the strength of a peak mid-level deity. Between mid-level deities and higher deities, there was actually a peak mid-level deity realm. However, this realm was rather vague and not a realm that one had to go through. Gods with talent would break through to the next realm when they were late-stage mid-level deities. As for those with average talent, they would accumulate their foundation and finally break through at the peak mid-level deity realm. Between the two, each had its own benefits. As for Lin Ling, he currently lacked treasures to break through to the next realm. That was why he had to go through the process of reaching the peak mid-level deity realm. After all, he had 8 dantians, so it was undoubtedly more difficult to break through to the next realm. Lien Letian, are you still not going to tell me where the dragon god of the Dragon Valley and the rest went? When he was free, Lin Ling also questioned Lien Letian coldly. I really don't know. Lien Letian pretended to be innocent and said. He was the host body of the world will, so Lin Ling discovered that his soul techniques didn't have much effect on Lien Letian. Otherwise, Lin Ling would have long used tyrannical means to seize Lien Lishan's secrets. Of course, the most important thing was that Lin Ling couldn't sense his world will's power. Otherwise, he could still devour Lien Letian and obtain all his secrets. You'll tell me sooner or later. Lin Ling didn't intend to waste any more words. He turned and left. Watching Lin Ling leave, Lien Lishan's eyes were cold. He had the same idea as Lin Ling. If there was a chance, he would definitely devour Lin Ling. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. At this moment, in the origin returning Dao sect, an old man walked towards Daoist Yuan with a grave expression. Sectmaster, what happened? Seeing the old man's serious expression, Daoist Yuan felt that something big was about to happen. He asked, could it be that these bastards attacked the origin returning Dao sect again? No, now that the Yellow Emperor has appeared, and with the help of many great forces in the Dao Pagoda, the surrounding sects don't dare to act recklessly. However, the Yellow Emperor's messenger. The old man frowned and then handed over an ancient parchment. Heavens, this is a heavenly Dao warrant. With just a glance, Daoist Yuan sucked in a cold breath. The heavenly Dao warrant was not only famous in the Dao realm and Dao Pagoda, but also in the chaotic realm. It was a warrant issued jointly by countless sects to kill the other party. Whoever could complete the warrant would be rewarded with countless rewards. Generally speaking, to be able to become a heavenly Dao warrant, one had to be recognized by 500 sects. Look at the person on the wanted list. The old man sighed. Daoist Yuan hurriedly took the warrant. After pouring in his divine essence, the parchment warrant emitted a bright light. A slender figure appeared in front of the two of them. It was so lifelike that one could even see all the hair and other things. Most importantly, this person was Lin Ling. Lin Ling. Daoist Yuan's body trembled. That's right, it's him. The old man nodded heavily. I don't know who has such great power to issue a heavenly Dao warrant for Lin Ling. One must know that Lin Ling is one of the Yellow Emperor's people. This is a bit troublesome. We must immediately inform Lin Ling about this and have him return to the Yellow Emperor's side. Daoist Yuan's expression turned serious. Chapter 4839. TSK 300 million Dao state fragments as a reward. On top of that, the reward is 5 chaos sacred artifacts and 10 ancient treasures of the primal chaos realm. The treasures are simply too generous. After seeing the rewards, Daoist Yuan's expression turned even more serious. Then he quickly informed Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling was still in the Shrine of Ice. After receiving Daoist Yuan's voice transmission, Lin Ling could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Although this was the first time he had heard of a bounty, the rewards were simply too generous. Not to mention other things, 300 million Dao state fragments was enough to make people take risks. Moreover, there were also chaos sacred artifacts and various rare treasures. With so many treasures, it's probably a bounty issued by Emperor Yao and the others. It was not difficult for Lin Ling to guess who his opponents were. Emperor Yao, Emperor Shun, the three divine gates of White Mountain, and Emperor Ziwei. If they worked together, they would indeed have such power. As for these treasures, it was obvious that they were the treasures that the Yellow Emperor did not want. In fact, with so many treasures, Lin Ling even wanted to issue a bounty on himself. Interesting. However, Lin Ling was not afraid. Instead, he was interested. With the Heavenly Tao's bounty issued, the area around the Tao Pagoda would probably be in chaos. The gods of various eras would probably want to attack Lin Ling. Even if Lin Ling wanted to return to the Yellow Emperor's side, the process would definitely be incomparably difficult. However, Lin Ling did not plan to return. He could take advantage of the chaos to obtain more Tao state fragments. If you want to kill me, Lin Ling, then come at me. Let's see who has the strength to do so. Lin Ling was not a famous god in his era. He was not famous in the Primordial Age, Chaos Age, Primordial Age, or Age of Pantheon. Even in the current era, he was only slightly famous. However, with the Heavenly Tao's bounty issued, his name instantly soared. Leave this place. After that, Lin Ling bade farewell to the Fridge Taoist and the others and left first. Although he could hide his appearance and aura, he knew that if he encountered gods like Emperor Yao and Emperor Shun, they would definitely be able to detect something. Staying here would undoubtedly bring danger to Ice Snow Taoist and the others. Moreover, if they were wanted, staying in one place was the most dangerous. The safest way was to move around and not be surrounded in one place. Get over here. Lin Ling used his soul power to lock onto Lien Lishan's soul, before disappearing into the snowstorm. At the same time, the area around the Tao Tower was in an uproar. 300 million Tao realm fragments TSK, a heavenly Tao wanted order. And there are also primal chaos sage items and countless other precious treasures. This Lin Ling is mine. If you can find Lin Ling, then we'll talk about it. The area around the Tao Pagoda is vast like smoke. This Lin Ling has probably received the news. If you want to find him, I'm afraid it will be harder than ascending to the heavens. I'm most afraid that he'll leave and hide in the universe he came from. What's there to be afraid of? Back then, Prince Jinlong was on the Tao Realm's wanted list. He disappeared from the Tao Realm for 10 million years. He thought that this matter was over, but he was killed as soon as he entered the Tao Realm. Gods have nothing but time. If you have the ability, Lin Ling will continue to hide. All kinds of voices sounded around the Tao Pagoda. The area around the Tao Pagoda was very large, 4 times the size of the Tao Realm. It also had the most accumulated experts, all of whom were gods from several eras. They only had one goal, and that was the Tao Pagoda. However, the difficulty of entering the Tao Pagoda was too high, so the gods were all accumulating their capital before entering the Tao Pagoda. Lin Ling, a heavenly Tao wanted order. In the area north of the Tao Pagoda, a man stood on a high peak, looking at the wanted order in his hand, his expression constantly changing. My lord, I'm afraid Lin Ling is in big trouble. A middle-aged man looked at the man and said. This middle-aged man was Lord Ning of the Spirit Kingdom. Originally, according to our grievances, I couldn't wait for him to die. But now he and I have a common enemy, which is Dipankara Buddha and Tong Tian. So, if Lin Ling dies, it will be even more disadvantageous for me. So, I hope he can survive. The man looked into the distance and then said lightly. He was the great god of the Spirit Kingdom. His relationship with Lin Ling now seemed to be that of an enemy, but also like a friend. If Lin Ling died, Tongtian's world hosts would definitely attack them. So, if Lin Ling didn't die, it would be beneficial for them. On the other side, an old man was drinking wine and walking with a large group of gods. He looked at the wanted order in his hand and smiled. This Lin Ling is really crazy. Should I help him or not? He was Taoist Duobao. It's probably the idea of the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. Dipankara Buddha is finally going to attack Lin Ling. Taoist Duobao secretly guessed. He didn't want to pay attention to this matter, and let Lin Ling attract the attention of the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. However, he thought that if Lin Ling was captured, he and the great god of the Spirit Kingdom would be next. So, if there was a chance, he would do his best to help Lin Ling. At least he wouldn't let Dipankara Buddha catch Lin Ling so easily. The entire Dao Pagoda area was like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. On the other side, Lin Ling walked along the ice and snow. He wore a large cloak and carried a large sword on his back like an ascetic. Behind him, even Lu Tian followed with a bitter face. Lin Ling had left a mark in his soul. It would take a lot of effort to break it. Lin Ling obviously wouldn't give him the time, so he could only follow Lin Ling. Demon City. Lin Ling's gaze landed in front of him. There was a huge ice and snow city. It was extremely majestic, but there was a demonic aura that soared into the sky. Lin Ling had learned about Ice Demon City from Zhaohe Mountain. It was also the only city in the vicinity. Many ancient fiendish demons were gathered there. After the great calamity of the world's will, the gods had fallen, and the demons couldn't escape the calamity. After reincarnating, they were incompatible with the gods, so they gathered together. And this demon city was extremely chaotic. There were great demons and great demons. Even powerful gods didn't dare to enter the city rashly. Here, treasures were the most important. Killing gods and seizing treasures was a common occurrence. Roar! Lin Ling walked along the ice and snow road and found the majestic city gate of Ice Snow City. It was a huge demon's mouth. Its cold teeth gleamed as if it wanted to devour everyone who entered the city. Demons in 2s and 3s stepped into the demon's mouth and disappeared from the city. These demons were violent and loved to eat human flesh. Now that they had taken human form, their murderous aura didn't diminish at all. No, don't go. That's the land of demons. It's one of the demon city. Don't go. Behind him, Lu Tian kept waving his hands and saying, as if he knew how terrifying the demon city was. One of the demon city? Lin Ling asked curiously. Chapter 4840. So that's how it is. Lin Ling suddenly understood. After all, he had just arrived at the Dao Pagoda and was not familiar with this place. He did not talk nonsense and continued to move forward with Lien Letian. Lien Letian cursed angrily. He was only a mid-level deity. Although he was very strong and could fight an early-stage superior deity, there were more than that in the city of demons. Then the two disappeared into the huge demon mouth. After passing through the city gate, Lin Ling found himself at a three-way intersection. In front of him were 3 huge roads that stretched into the distance as if they could cross the entire city. Around the 3-pronged road, there were a large number of restaurants and inns. Many tall and sturdy men with strange appearances were drinking wine and eating meat in large mouthfuls. Lin Ling even saw them feasting on human flesh. Many of them were holding human thighs and munching on them happily. Foul atmosphere. This was Lin Ling's biggest impression of this city. But at this moment, whether it was the demons drinking wine or the monsters eating meat, they all stopped and looked at Lin Ling with sneers. A human? Someone suddenly sneered. It's been a long time since a new human came. His flesh and blood are probably very good. Be careful. A human who dares to come to the city of demons probably has some background. Whispers could be heard as the demons stared at Lin Ling maliciously. However, Lin Ling was wearing a large black cloak, so the demons could not see Lin Ling's appearance. Your Excellency, do you want to eat an apple? Suddenly, an old woman and an old man walked toward Lin Ling with a smile. They each carried a basket with apples and pears in their hands. They looked very delicious. Damn it, they beat us to it. That old fox and old jackal loved to attack newcomers. The surrounding demons cursed secretly. Of course, their voices were very soft and did not let Lin Ling and Lien Letian hear them. Even Lu Tian's face turned pale instantly. He naturally knew how terrifying these demons were. Although they were humans, they could turn into demons that were hundreds of meters tall in the blink of an eye. Bang! Lin Ling acted as though he didn't see the demons blocking his path. He took a step forward and a terrifying thing happened. Beside the old woman and old man, rumbling sounds could be heard as the power of divinity pressed down on them. Bang, bang, bang. The baskets in their hands fell to the ground and turned into a large number of poisonous insects, toads, and other poisonous creatures. As for the old woman and old man, their bodies exploded as well. They were killed by the power of the gods. What a powerful move. The distant fiendish demons were all shocked. Because this divine energy came without any warning. It was formless and colorless, and its methods were extremely sharp. It seems to be the work of the nearby origin returning Tao sect. A middle-aged man with sharp teeth said coldly. The demon city was west of the Tao Pagoda, so they knew about the origin returning Tao sect. Good lad, I gave you face, but you don't want it. Suddenly a sharp voice rang out, and the fog dispersed. Then the seemingly dead old woman appeared again. Her skin began to fall off and a large amount of hair grew out. Furthermore, she was growing continuously. Her mouth was also becoming sharper, and her claws were also becoming incomparably sharp. Finally, she turned into a jade-faced old fox demon that was 100 meters tall. This was a fox demon that had cultivated for 80 million years. Looking at the old man, he had also turned into a huge wolf. The stench of blood on his body was extremely foul. He was the demon king of ancient Jackal Mountain during the Age of the Gods. Two huge demons blocked in front of Lin Ling and Lin Ling. They were going to harm Lin Ling. Swoosh! But at this moment Lin Ling slashed out with his sword. The gray-robed Lin Ling also appeared silently. This was because these two demons possessed early-stage high god strength. Therefore, Lin Ling had to unleash some of his trump cards to defeat them. And his sword was surging with murderous intent, as though the universe had arrived. Plop! Two huge demon heads fell to the ground. The 100-meter-tall demon's neck kept spitting out blood, and then it collapsed. In front of the three-pronged road, there was an instant silence. Countless demons narrowed their eyes and looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. Lin Ling shook off the stench of blood on the tyrannical Song sword. With a shake of his arm, the tyrannical Song sword floated behind him, and the eternal killing world in the sword returned to Lin Ling's 8th dantian. Lin Ling led Lien Letian forward as though he was leading a dog, passing through the two huge corpses. What a strong murderous intent. Is he a human or a demon? In my opinion, he's a demon. His murderous intent is very strong. He's probably a grim demon. Looks like he's qualified to enter the demon city. The demons muttered secretly. If Lin Ling was a human god, they would definitely join forces to kill him. However, there were also humans who joined them. They were demons, grim demons, and other such gods. And Lin Ling's sword was filled with murderous intent, which made them think that Lin Ling was a grim demon god. Because he had killed too many people, he was not recognized by the human gods, so he came to the demon city to seek refuge. He killed an early-stage high god with a single slash. His strength is probably at the mid-stage high god level. Forget it. Let's continue eating and drinking. The fiendish demons no longer bothered with Lin Ling. As for Lin Ling, he continued walking along the main street. He found a relatively clean inn and walked in. The inn was also full of demons, but they were more gentle, such as bamboo demons, rabbit demons, and so on. They glanced at Lin Ling and ignored him. Innkeeper! Lin Ling shouted after sitting down. A beautiful woman immediately came to greet Lin Ling. She first stared at Lin Ling. What was strange was that this woman's eyes were green. When one looked into her eyes, it was easy to lose oneself in them. This was the divine art of seduction. Innkeeper! Lin Ling shouted. How could this divine art of seduction affect him? Sir, what would you like to eat? The woman wanted to use the divine art to investigate Lin Ling. After being seen through by Lin Ling, she quickly smiled and said, "The best dishes." Lin Ling was a man of few words. He was very cold. Okay. The woman hurried away. Lin Ling looked around. Suddenly, his gaze fell on a wall of the inn. He saw that many things were recorded on the wall, but one of them was a wanted list. There were many wanted posters on the wanted list, including the sun, moon, and star lists and the human, earth, and heaven lists. On the heaven leaderboard, Lin Ling saw his name. He even saw other wanted criminals on the heaven leaderboard. The heaven lists were the heavenly Tao's wanted list. There were not many people recorded on the heaven lists, less than 100. There were humans, demons, and demons. Lin Ling was ranked 18th, which meant that the reward for the wanted list on Lin Ling was the 18th place on the heaven lists. Interesting. Lin Ling smiled faintly. Sir, there are many wanted criminals in the city of demons. At this time, the beautiful woman walked back and looked at Lin Ling with a smile. Sir, you're staring at the wanted list. I guess you're also on the wanted list. However, you don't have to worry too much. The city of demons is very chaotic. It's not like the Pantheon, where everyone wants to arrest you. Chapter 48-41. Upon hearing the beautiful woman's words, Lin Ling also began to drink and eat, completely ignoring the beautiful woman. Enjoy your meal, sir. The beautiful woman did not care about anything and left after saying a few polite words. In fact, if Lin Ling had said a few polite words, the beautiful woman would have found it very strange and even suspected Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling's indifference was in line with the personality of the demon city. Lin Ling, where are you taking me? What's the use of taking me like this? I really don't know where the Dragon Valley and the Dragon God have gone. Seeing Lin Ling eating and drinking alone, Lien Le gritted his teeth and said because Lin Ling was treating him like a captive. However, Lin Ling ignored him and continued to eat and drink his own food. I must find a chance to kill him. Lien Li's eyes flashed coldly as he muttered to himself. Your Excellency, are there two people? At this time, another old man walked into the inn. This old man had white hair and wore a white robe. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being and looked extremely benevolent. Most importantly, he was actually heading straight for Lin Ling. Lin Ling glanced around and continued to eat and drink. His soul power was strong and he could roughly see through the old man's body. It was a white-armored pangolin. I'm Elder Jia of the Flying Frost Valley. I'm here on behalf of our king. The old man did not care about Lin Ling's rudeness and continued to smile. What's the matter? Lin Ling finally spoke. He discovered that these great demons were indeed powerful. They were all early-stage higher deities with profound skills. From this point, the difference between the Tao realm and the Dao Tower could be seen. In the Tao realm, superior gods were extremely rare. Of course, there was also a possibility that the real superior gods had entered the Dao Tower. Those who stayed in the Tao realm were mostly gods who were not ambitious and were waiting for the arrival of the world will's tribulation. They were gods who were ready to die at any time. It's like this. The Flying Frost Valley would like to invite you to join us. The old man cupped his hands and smiled. Although he was learning human etiquette when he spoke, the tail behind his robe swayed slightly, giving off an incomparably comical feeling. Join you? You don't even know who I am. And you're inviting me? Or does your Flying Frost Valley think that your king is so powerful that he doesn't fear the gods of the entire Dao Pagoda? Lin Ling took a sip of wine. Now that he was a wanted man, if he were to join the Flying Frost Valley, he would be harming the Flying Frost Valley. One had to know that even the Yellow Emperor could not guarantee that he would be safe under the Heavenly Dao's arrest warrant, let alone the Flying Frost Valley. Haha, no matter who you are, you just need to join us. You're from the Demon Slayer clan. I guess you've offended many human gods. Joining us is your only way out. The old man chuckled and explained proudly, we, the Flying Frost Valley, have 5 kings. They are all great demons from the age of the Pantheon. If you join us, your safety will be guaranteed. 5 kings? What kind of strength is this? Lin Ling asked with interest. For great lords are late-stage high gods, and one great lord is a mid-stage high god. The old man puffed out his chest and became even prouder. A late-stage high god was a force to be reckoned with in the Dao Pagoda. Unfortunately, this bit of strength was really not enough for Lin Ling. Although it was difficult for him to defeat a late-stage high god, the Flying Frost Valley could not protect him at all. No need. I don't plan to join the Demon Valley for the time being. Lin Ling shook his head and rejected the offer directly. Haha, Your Excellency, you've missed your chance. The old man was not angry. He smiled and said, Your Excellency may not know, but the old fox and poisonous jackal you killed earlier were great demons of the Flying Frost Valley. Now you can only join the Flying Frost Valley. Otherwise, the Flying Frost Valley will not let you go. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed. He was wondering why the Flying Frost Valley was so kind and tirelessly trying to recruit him. It turned out that the fox and jackal that Lin Ling had killed earlier were related to the Flying Frost Valley. Get lost. Lin Ling was too lazy to talk nonsense. He directly chased the old man away. Your Excellency, take care of yourself. The old man immediately left with a smile. After he left, there was a flurry of discussion in the inn. Although the Flying Frost Valley was not a gathering place for great demons, it was extremely impressive. This man had killed someone from the Flying Frost Valley, but the Flying Frost Valley did not pursue the matter. Instead, they gave this man a chance. However, this man had missed it. They laughed softly, as if they were gloating and watching a good show. What a strange demon. Lin Ling naturally knew what they were laughing about. He only felt disdain for it. Moreover, although the demons in the inn were imitating the refined tastes of humans, they were ultimately imitating the David's deer. Especially their gloating smiles, it was as strange as it could be. For example, one of the weasels was laughing cruelly. However, when he laughed, his human face and weasel face would change from time to time. It was extremely strange. Ignoring them, Lin Ling ate and drank to his heart's content before slowly leaving the inn. To him, the Demon City was just a transit station to familiarize himself with and understand the entire Dao Pagoda. Obviously, he would not stay here for long. He's finally gone. Seeing Lin Ling leave, the beautiful woman in the inn frowned and could not help but remind him. Your Excellency, the Flying Frost Valley is an existence that cannot be underestimated among the great demons. One of their kings is in the Demon City. Hearing this, Lin Ling paused in his footsteps and then continued walking. The beautiful woman was stunned. She sighed and ignored Lin Ling. Good luck. She had only said that one sentence. After Lin Ling walked out of the inn, he immediately felt the oppressive atmosphere. The inn was filled with smoke and a large number of demons were checking him out. Their expressions were full of mockery. You're really shameless. You killed our old fox and you still want to leave alive. On the second floor of an inn, a middle-aged man in a brown robe said coldly as he drank wine. Your Majesty, calm down. He's dead for sure. We'll use his head to drink later. That's right. These human demons are stupid. Their intelligence is not high. Beside him, two small demons flattered. Although they had transformed into humans, they still looked very ugly. He using his head to drink wine. Not bad. The middle-aged man smiled and nodded. He gently placed the wine cup in his hand on the table. Bang! A soft sound rang out. Boom! However, on the street, a sudden change occurred. Terrifying demonic aura soared into the sky. From every corner of the street, huge demons stepped forward and rushed toward Lin Ling. All of them possessed early-stage high god strength, and their defenses were incomparably powerful. Their demonic aura seemed to have materialized. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. It was terrifying. Countless eyes in the Demon City immediately locked onto this street. Countless demons revealed curious expressions. Chapter 48-42. I've just had my fill. It's time for some exercise. Lin Ling muttered to himself. Under the cloak, a gray robe quietly appeared, and a terrifying aura spread out. He stretched out one hand, and the tyrannical song sword floated out from behind him. The eternal killing world in his eighth dantian surged into the sword. He held the sword and walked forward step by step. Swoosh! He slashed out with his sword, and it was as if he had slashed out a universe. The three early-stage high-level demons in front of him were instantly cut in half. Blood gushed out and dyed the street red. One must know that the demonic energy of these demons was terrifying. Ordinary divine energy could not kill them at all. This was because most of them had 200 million demonic energy in their bodies, which was comparable to the 200 million demonic energy of a god. Bang! Bang! Lin Ling's sword did not stop, and he gently slashed out. He looked as if he was casually swinging his sword, and it did not look like he was swinging his sword at all. However, this seemingly ordinary sword strike was actually so terrifying. Especially in the eyes of the demons, these swords had intertwined killing energy, and it was as if a universe had slashed them. Swoosh! After that, Lin Ling did not even look behind him. He slashed out again, and the demons behind him were also killed. Killing early-stage high-level gods was as easy as chopping vegetables. Everyone in the city gasped. Although Lin Ling had killed the old fox and the wolf, they thought that Lin Ling could only kill early-stage high-level gods and fight mid-stage high-level gods. But now there was more than just one early-stage high-level god here. Crackle! Suddenly, a green swamp appeared on the ground where Lin Ling was standing. The swamp was emitting green smoke, and it seemed to be demonic poison. The most terrifying thing was that the demonic poison came without any warning, and it was impossible to guard against it. However, Lin Ling disappeared and reappeared 100 meters away. He shook his head and said, "Is this all you've got?" As soon as he finished speaking, he threw out the sword in his hand. It shot up into the sky like an arrow and then shot straight down. After crashing into the ground, it disappeared without a trace. After that, the depths of the ground started to shake violently. It was as if a demon had emerged from the ground. After that, a 100-meter-long toad appeared before everyone's eyes. Unfortunately, the toad had been killed with a single strike of the sword. "Flying Frost Valley, you want to recruit me with this little strength?" Lin Ling waved his right hand, and the tyrannical song sword flew back. "Old toad, he's a mid-stage high-level god." It was as if the entire city had exploded, and the rumbling continued without end. Slaying a mid-stage high god with a single slash. Just what was the limit of this grim demon? "You've watched long enough, don't you have anything to say?" Suddenly, Lin Ling stopped in his tracks and looked at a restaurant in the distance. When he looked over, countless gazes from the entire city locked onto the restaurant. They had roughly guessed that there was definitely an even more powerful great demon hiding in the restaurant in the Flying Frost Valley. Perhaps it was the king of the Flying Frost Valley. At this moment, the demons in the restaurant, who were drinking casually, had stopped moving. The middle-aged man in the brown robe was still holding the wine cup, but his hands were shaking. After witnessing Lin Ling kill the great demon of the Flying Frost Valley, he knew how terrifying Lin Ling's strength was. Swoosh! At this moment a sword shot over. Lin Ling had made his move. "Block it!" The middle-aged man in the brown robe threw the wine cup in his hand and spat out a mouthful of demonic aura. The surrounding demons blocked in front of him. However, Lin Ling's sword was extremely sharp. It shot through the window and pierced through the demons. Finally, the sword pierced through the middle-aged man, causing him to point forward with a look of disbelief. Finally, he slowly fell to the ground. The Fishworm King is also dead. The Flying Frost Valley only had 5 kings, and now one of them is dead. Slaying Demon's sword is too powerful. The demons watching from afar were all pale and trembling. Most importantly, killing the king of the Flying Frost Valley in one strike was too terrifying. Interesting trying to escape? However, Lin Ling smiled faintly. He stretched out his right hand and flicked his finger. The tyrannical song sword flew out from afar and pierced through the ground. Not long after, a painful roar was heard. Next, everyone saw the ground explode, and a snake-like demon rushed out. However, its body was pierced through by a sword, and a large amount of smelly blood spurted out. Of course, this snake-like demon was not actually a snake, but an earthworm. "No, how did you find me?" After being pierced by the tyrannical song sword, the earthworm let out a loud roar. "With your intelligence, it's hard for me to explain it to you." Lin Ling turned to leave, but the tyrannical song sword was cutting back and forth, cutting the huge earthworm into pieces. Then the tyrannical song sword flew back and hovered around Lin Ling, protecting him. This time, no one dared to stop Lin Ling. Is he really a mid-level deity? Why is he so strong? I think he's really a mid-level deity, but his sword is very sharp. It should be a Chaos Divine weapon. It's at least a 5th-grade Chaos Divine weapon. After Lin Ling gradually disappeared, the fiendish demon city was abuzz with discussion. On the other side, Lin Ling had already left with Lien Letian towards another city gate. However, not long after leaving the fiendish demon city, Lin Ling suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at the loot in his hands. Previously, he had killed many demons, and at the same time, obtained their celestial Tao restoration tablets. These demons did not have the protection of the Tao state, so he could easily obtain the celestial Tao restoration tablets. The Tao state fragments inside belonged to Lin Ling. Lin Ling kept the Tao state fragments in his celestial Tao restoration tablet, and threw away the demon's celestial Tao restoration tablets. He knew that it would not be long before these celestial Tao restoration tablets disappeared. "Sir, do you have a problem with me?" After keeping the celestial Tao restoration tablets, Lin Ling suddenly looked in a direction and asked. In the mountains, a mysterious man with a huge saber on his back walked out with a smile. Sir, you are very strong. You have the strength of a mid-level deity, but you even killed a mid-level high god. Among the human gods, there are not many who have the strength to challenge those of a higher level. Who are you? Lin Ling looked at the man and realized that he had the strength of a mid-level high god. However, this man's saber was extraordinary. Thousand Blade One. The man smiled and took off his cloak, revealing a bearded face. He looked to be in his 40s, and he gave off the feeling that he was an honest man. However, Lin Ling's eyes flashed and he said with a smile, "Underground wanted list, Thousand Blade One." Upon hearing this, the mysterious man's expression changed. "You are not a good person. You are a demon god among demons. You are wanted by the gods, so you hid in the fiendish demon land," Lin Ling said again. The mysterious man's eyes narrowed. He did not expect Lin Ling to be so familiar with him. He did not know that Lin Ling was familiar with him because he had seen the various wanted lists. "You are looking for me?" Lin Ling said indifferently. Chapter 48-43. You're Lin Ling from the Heavenly Tao wanted list. Seeing that Lin Ling had seen through his origins, Wan Dawi no longer hid his purpose. "How do you know?" Lin Ling's eyes flashed. "You don't need to know that. I only know that the reward for killing you is incomparably generous." A large blade appeared in Wan Dawi's hand, and with a buzz the power of divinity burst out like the universe. It was very strong. His power of divinity had probably reached as much as 500 million. A wanted criminal killing a wanted criminal? Don't you think it's funny? Lin Ling stared at Wan Dawi's blade and laughed. I can enter the demon city. This means that I'm not a pedantic person." Wan Dawi shook his head. He only attacked for the Tao realm fragment. He said coldly, "After killing you, I'll have the capital to enter the Tao pagoda." His eyes turned red. It was a blood-red color, and his pupils could not be seen. It was terrifying. "You're so sure that you can kill me?" Lin Ling also knew that Wan Dawi was not an ordinary mid-stage high god. He was stronger than those he had encountered before, perhaps even twice as strong. "You're just a mid-stage high god. No matter how powerful you are, there's a limit. Take my blade." As Wan Dawi spoke, he had already attacked. With a horizontal slash, the sky of the Tao pagoda was cut open, and a void appeared. However, at the critical moment, Lin Ling activated the Kwafu Sunchasur boots and disappeared on the spot, avoiding Wan Dawi's fierce slash. Then Lin Ling floated in the air, looking down at Wan Dawi with a cold expression. He still did not understand how Wan Dawi recognized him. Although he knew that he would not be able to escape the day of being hunted down, he did not expect that day to come so soon. "Let's see how long you can hide." Wan Dawi raised his head and pointed the blade in his hand at Lin Ling. "Why should I hide?" Lin Ling did not want to waste too much time. He felt that this was not a good place to stay. Universe 3 Extreme Break. He used his trump card and attacked Wan Dawi from the sky. The terrifying soul power locked Wan Dawi's soul into the great universe and killed him. Wan Dawi's eyes narrowed. What kind of technique was this? He still wanted to make a move and even wanted to say something, but he was already killed by Lin Ling's cosmic ray. After his trip to the Shrine of Ice, Lin Ling's soul energy had once again improved. Now, the might of his 3 extremes of universe had also increased by a notch. "You overestimate yourself," Lin Ling shouted coldly as he floated down to the ground and took away Wan Dawi's Tao returns to heaven. Subsequently, Lin Ling discovered that Wan Dawi's Tao regression celestial realm didn't seem to disappear. This meant that Wan Dawi still had a chance to be protected by the Tao realm. Unfortunately, Wan Dawi was killed by Soul Force, and the Tao realm couldn't detect the killing intent, so it didn't protect Wan Dawi. Wu Ting once said that if taken away by the Tao realm's protection, the Tao regression celestial realm wouldn't disappear, but it would take a certain amount of time. If the person who came didn't come to take back the Tao regression celestial realm, the Tao regression celestial realm would disappear sooner or later. Now that Wan Dawi is dead, the Tao regression celestial realm won't be able to escape the fate of disappearing. Lin Ling wasn't in a hurry. He took Wan Daoi's Dao regression celestial realm and immediately left. However, not long after he left, a huge mouth suddenly appeared on the ground. Upon closer inspection, it was a mouth formed by 2 leaves. It suddenly closed and swallowed Lin Ling. These leaves were too strange. They appeared without any warning. Even with Lin Ling's soul power, he couldn't detect them unless the leaves merged. Haha, Heavenly Dao Arrest Order Lin Ling, you've been caught by me. Quickly accept your death. No one can break my supreme world spiritual realm. Lin Ling, who was swallowed, felt that he had entered a pitch-black world. At the same time, a sinister laughter sounded in his ears. Lin Ling instantly knew that the one swallowing him was a great demon, and an extremely powerful one at that. Whoosh! At the same time, water began to drip from the surroundings. The corrosive power was very strong, as if it was going to digest Lin Ling. And within this corrosive water, Lin Ling sensed a terrifying god energy. It seemed that the things that the leaves swallowed relied on the god energy to corrode their prey. TSK Tisk 300 million Dao realm fragments are mine just like that. Ha ha ha. At the same time, a triumphant voice sounded. It was incomparably happy. It's too early for you to be happy. Lin Ling knew that there was no time to lose. He had to leave this place immediately. Otherwise, no matter how strong his combat strength was, it would be greatly reduced. Pengu Strike. Shatter the earth. Lin Ling activated the god energy's invincible technique. Then, like a giant Pengu, he attacked the leaves crazily and blasted them apart. And the corrosive water that fell on him seemed to be ineffective at this moment. How is this possible? The leaves also screamed in horror. They could not believe it. And at this moment, outside the leaves, Lien Letian stared at the huge leaves in front of him with an excited smile. If Lin Ling died in the mouth of the great demon, then he would be able to obtain Lin Ling's will of the world. After all, the great demon could not devour the will of the world. Hurry, hurry! Lien Letian was looking forward to it. Boom! But at this moment, the leaves in front of him shook violently. Then a fist broke the surface of the leaves, followed by more and more fists. Finally, the leaves were also blasted apart by countless huge fists. A figure rushed out and stomped down from the sky. Boom! The great demon from before was stomped to death. Deader than dead. The person who rushed out was Lin Ling. He had collected the great demon's Dao regression celestial rank. His expression was extremely serious. The massacre was finally here. And it was faster than he had imagined. He had to leave this place immediately. Lin Ling's eyes swept across and suddenly landed on Lien Letian. After pondering for a moment, he finally understood. One had to know that he had been hiding his aura and appearance. Unless it was someone who was purposely coming for him, Lin Ling, no one would be able to detect him. But now with 2 waves of enemies, they all knew that Lin Ling was purposely here. All of this did not make sense. The only explanation was that someone was telling them. Now the only person who knew of Lin Ling's whereabouts was Lien Letian. Lien Letian. Lin Ling growled. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. This Lien Letian was ultimately a bomb. Lin Ling, you, what are you trying to do? Being stared at by Lin Ling, Lien Letian was clearly a little flustered. Don't think that I can't do anything to you just because you are the will of the world. Lin Ling's mind kept thinking, trying to find a way to devour Lien Letian. Lien Letian was the will of the world. Even if he died, he could still be reincarnated. Unless he could devour him and make him die completely. But with Lin Ling's current knowledge, he had yet to find a way to devour him. Right, why not ask Senior Guang Changzi? Lin Ling's eyes lit up. Then he looked into the distance and knew that another enemy was coming. Chapter 48-44. Lien Lishan's body trembled as he panicked. He didn't know why, but the way Lin Ling looked at him made him feel that Lin Ling had a way to deal with him. Heavenly Dao Arrest Order, Lin Ling is here. He couldn't help but shout, wanting more enemies to attack Lin Ling. This also aroused Lin Ling's anger. However, the most important thing now was to leave immediately and find a quiet place to deal with Lien Letian. Go ahead and shout. If they can't kill me, Lien Letian, you're dead meat. Lin Ling said, full of killing intent. This made Lien Letian even more flustered. Whoosh! Lin Ling activated the Quafu Sun chasing boots and ran along the ground at an incomparably fast speed. However, he didn't dare to fly too high because he would become a thorn in the side. Although he didn't see anyone chasing after him, Lin Ling could feel that someone was coming for him. The reward of a heavenly Dao arrest order was too generous. No one would ignore it. Sure enough, after running for 3 incense sticks, the killing intent finally arrived. Suddenly, a pitch-black light appeared in front of him. It was like a huge wall blocking Lin Ling's path. Something's not right. Lin Ling was still holding Lien Lishan's hand. His eyes stared ahead. There was a huge black wall in front of them that was emitting dense smoke. Lin Ling's soul force quietly swept over it. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This wall was too big. It was actually bigger than any of the prefectures in the 9 prefectures. When he looked up again, the terrifying thing was that this wall reached straight into the clouds and into the Grand Mist Aura. Most importantly, the Grand Mist Aura didn't seem to affect this wall. The Grand Mist Aura was the most mysterious existence in the Dao realm. No god could break through it. Now that there was someone who didn't fear the Grand Mist Aura, it was no wonder that Lin Ling was shocked. Rumble. At this moment there was finally a rumbling sound behind them. It seemed like a large number of gods and demons were chasing after them. The only choice left for Lin Ling was to break through this wall as soon as possible and escape. Rumble. Lin Ling slashed out with his sword. The terrifying power of divinity slammed into the black wall, creating a rumbling sound. However, the sword that had always been invincible only managed to create a small gap in the black wall. Moreover, black smoke came out of the gap and quickly repaired it. What a strong defense! Lin Ling's pupils constricted. His innate talent fusion Grey Robe appeared, and he slashed out another slash. This sword strike was much more powerful. It cut 100 meters into the black wall. But in the blink of an eye, black mist filled the gap and intertwined with each other. The black wall was restored to its original state. What is this? Lin Ling's expression became more and more. Looking behind him, he realized that a powerful aura was descending. He could even see the enemy coming. Above the heavens, ants and demonic chi with his est. In midair, a white light flickered and flew over with the speed of 20 million worlds. This was a divine bird, and it was an extremely fast divine bird. Bang! 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 On the other side, the green-furred lion broke through countless mountains, roaring at the sky as it arrived. As for the southeast, sand and stones were flying everywhere. In the rolling sandstorm, a pair of eyes faintly appeared and stared at Lin Ling, full of murderous intent. Lin Ling could sense from the aura that these powerful enemies were late-stage high gods. He couldn't win. Lin Ling had already used the universe's 3 extremes break. With only the eternal killing world and Panga's attack, he was no match for these enemies. Lin Ling, how dare you kill my Flying Frost Valley's people? A low voice finally sounded. What shocked Lin Ling was that the voice came from in front of him. The black wall finally moved. Amidst the endless black clouds, a pair of cold eyes hung in the air like the moon. Very evil, very strange. The eyes stared at Lin Ling and it was huge. Lin Ling's pupils trembled violently. Only then did he realize that it was a head, and there were eyes on the head. The scariest thing was that Lin Ling realized that it was a huge demon turtle, and the thing in front of him was the body of the demon turtle. However, the body of the demon turtle was too big, as though it was a universe of its own. Flying Frost Valley? Lin Ling's expression changed. He had completely guessed the origin of these demons. They were probably the 4 kings of the Flying Frost Valley. However, their strength was indeed terrifying. Most importantly, they were just ordinary kings in the demon city. If they were really powerful demons, wouldn't they be even more powerful? You won't be able to escape after killing my Flying Frost Valley's people. However, I didn't expect you to be a wanted criminal of the heavenly Dao. From behind, a loud voice sounded like a sound wave, causing Lin Ling's eardrums to hurt. I have to leave this place immediately. Lin Ling knew that there was no time to lose. If he was really surrounded here, he would definitely die. Lin Ling, haha. He looked at Lien Letian again. At this moment he was overjoyed, as though he saw Lin Ling unable to escape. He roared at the demons, I've found this Lin Ling for you. As long as you let me go, everything of Lin Ling will belong to you." Indeed, Lien Letian had informed them to come. This made Lin Ling want nothing more than to kill Lien Letian with his sword. However, Lin Ling endured it. He knew that Lien Letian was eager to kill him and reincarnate, but Lin Ling wouldn't let him off so easily. Pengu strike, sky-splitting slash. Lin Ling put away the tyrannical song sword and unleashed another killer move. He raised his hand high and suddenly slashed forward. "A mere human dares to go against our great king? You're courting death." Seeing that Lin Ling was about to attack, the great kings were full of disdain. They didn't think that Lin Ling could cause a stir among the late-stage high-level great gods. Rumble. However, when Lin Ling slashed down, the huge black flag in front of him was cut open, revealing a 1-meter-wide path that went straight into the distance. You cut me open." The huge demonic turtle let out a shocked voice in disbelief. The few great demons behind it also stopped in their tracks, their faces full of shock. However, Lin Ling noticed that even though he had slashed the demonic turtle in half, the demonic turtle wasn't dead at all. At most, it had suffered some minor injuries. Moreover, the path that had been slashed open was filled with black clouds, and it was rapidly recovering. Pengu strike, spiritual extinction. Lin Ling shouted angrily in his heart. His body disappeared from the spot as though he had teleported and shot into the black wall in front of him. At this moment, the black wall was rapidly fusing. Lin Ling's move was obviously extremely dangerous. If he couldn't escape before the black wall completely fused, he would be caught in the middle of the black wall and completely captured by the great demons. Lin Ling also knew this. Chapter 48-45. How did his speed increase so much all of a sudden? King Xian, stop him quickly. Seeing Lin Ling suddenly disappear, the great demons behind him all roared loudly. They had never imagined that a mere mid-level deity human would actually possess so many powerful techniques. "He entering my body, he's courting death." The giant demon turtle also spoke in human language and said disdainfully. However, his voice soon became panicked. "Oh no, he escaped." As soon as he said this, the world fell silent. Under the joint efforts of the Flying Frost Valley's great kings, the human god had actually escaped. Chase! The great demons were furious. Their bodies became huge, and they galloped on the ground like giants. As for the gigantic demon turtle, it shrunk and opened up a path for them. After the great demons passed by it, it chased after Lin Ling. However, when they chased after Lin Ling, they suddenly realized that Lin Ling had completely disappeared. Whoosh! In the sky, a white light pierced through the void. After disappearing for a moment, it returned and turned into a middle-aged man in a white robe. The middle-aged man's nose was very sharp, like an eagle's beak. He shouted coldly, "Damn it, he escaped. King Yan, with your speed you can't catch up with him?" The other great kings were shocked. His speed is estimated to have reached 20 million world speed. The middle-aged man in the white robe said angrily. As soon as he said this, the great kings all gasped. 20 million world speed was difficult even for great demons like them. Only King Yan, who was the original body of the bloody killing swallow, could have such speed. However, King Yan only had 20 million world speed and did not surpass Lin Ling. Therefore, he could not catch up with Lin Ling. And now, a mid-level god also possessed this kind of speed? 300 million Tau realm fragments, he escaped just like that. An old man walked over angrily with a huge turtle shell on his back. It was the demon turtle. At this moment, Lin Ling kept rushing forward at an extremely fast speed. He looked back and suddenly realized that the Tao pagoda hanging in the sky was getting smaller and smaller. This meant that he was being chased in another direction. But now he had no choice. Behind him, Lien Letian was still being held back by Lin Ling's soul chains. This made Lin Ling nod inwardly. He was most afraid that Lien Letian would escape. After a long time, Lin Ling sensed that the power of Pengu's attack was weakening, and his speed finally slowed down. However, Lin Ling was still cautious. His trump cards were very powerful, but they could only be used once. If he encountered a powerful enemy now, he would definitely be in trouble. "Lin Ling, is it? You're really strong. You actually hit here." I had to activate my divine ability, the staircase of the world, to catch up to you. But at this moment a cold voice sounded. Then a sword slashed over. Divine sword surged, slaying demons. This sword came without any warning and was incomparably fast, causing Lin Ling's expression to greatly change. He anxiously tried to block it, but was immediately injured by the powerful divine power. Clang! After the tyrannical song sword collided with the sword, Lin Ling's figure rapidly retreated. Looking at his shoulder, it was now covered in blood. He looked into the distance and saw a man holding a sword on a mountain peak in the distance. He stood there calmly. His sword caused the sky to change color. Middle stage high god, but he's very strong. His divine power has reached 600 million. Lin Ling's expression was extremely solemn. He had just escaped from the great demon, but he did not expect to be caught up again. Most importantly, this person seemed to be a human god. Moreover, the opponent's speed was too fast. He could actually catch up to Lin Ling. Right, he mentioned the staircase of the world. Could it be the staircase of the gods? Lin Ling thought to himself. Then he said coldly, "Who are you?" Whoosh! On the mountain peak, the man did not bother to say anything. He slashed down with his sword. Rumble! Under this sword, a large number of mountains were slashed and floated in the sky like light feathers. It was very beautiful. Then the invisible divine power merged into the sword and slashed at Lin Ling. Merge! Lin Ling shouted in a low voice. A gray robe appeared, and his divine power and physical strength instantly skyrocketed, reaching 200 million. The tyrannical song sword blocked in front of him, madly blocking the fatal sword. Rumble! Lin Ling was as if he was blocking the impact of a storm. His figure was constantly knocked back. But in the end, this terrifying horizontal slash was blocked by Lin Ling. Bang! 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 The sword passed around Lin Ling, and all the mountains behind him were flattened. Countless mountains floated in the sky like feathers. Looking from afar, the scene was extremely spectacular. This person is very strong, and he's also a swordsman. If I can't defeat him, I'll be in even more trouble. Now there are definitely many people who want to kill me, and they're all on the way. I have to speed up. Lin Ling's eyes flickered, and there were billowing flames spewing out of them. Very good strength. To be able to block my sword with the realm of a mid-stage mid-god. You're considered very amazing among the gods. On the mountain peak, the man said indifferently, "Since you blocked my sword, I'll tell you my name, Mount Shu Sword God." Mount Shu was an extremely famous sword faction in ancient times. They slayed demons and ruled the world with their swords. They were extremely powerful. Once Lin Ling also knew a god called Mount Shu Sword Immortal. This person came from Mount Shu. However, there were many swordsmen in Mount Shu, and Mount Shu Sword Immortal was only one of them. Most importantly, the god called Mount Shu Sword God in front of him was even stronger. How did you detect me?" Lin Ling asked. "Someone told me and roughly told me your whereabouts. My god stairs can cross a world. I noticed your figure at the distant Dao Tower. I stepped into the void and arrived here." The man said indifferently. Lin Ling nodded. So it was the god's stairs. However, this person's god stairs was really terrifying. Could cross realms. This meant that if this person used the god stairs, he could go to the chaotic realm and the void of the 9 regions. My god stairs is not as powerful as you think. It has no attack power, and there is a limit to the number of times it can be used. Moreover, I can't go to realms that I haven't been to, such as the Dao Tower. As if guessing Lin Ling's thoughts, the man said again. No wonder he didn't enter the Dao Tower. It turned out that he couldn't use the god stairs to enter places that he hadn't been to before. However, Lin Ling still felt that this person's god stairs were too heaven-defying. Because with this kind of god stairs, if he encountered a powerful enemy, he could escape from the dangerous place in one step. Well, I've said what needs to be said. Now die. The man jumped down from the sky. With a sword in hand, he cut through the thorns and shot towards Lin Ling. Rumble. This sword was incomparably terrifying. It was like a shooting star. The divine power had reached a terrifying level. Chapter 48-46. Lin Ling's eternal killing world was the same as Pengu's strike. It even had an advantage that Pengu's strike did not have, which was that there was no limit to the number of times it could be used. Moreover, it had accumulated tens of thousands of centuries of killing. It was terrifying. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Lin Ling actually took the initiative to attack, the man immediately laughed disdainfully. But at this moment he realized that a powerful universe of killing was coming at him, as if it was going to drown him. He had seen the ocean of killing, the river of killing, and even the most powerful heaven and earth of killing, but this was the first time he had seen the universe of killing. The killing intent of the entire universe was naturally stronger than the ocean, the river, and even the heaven and earth. Impossible. How could you have accumulated so many kills? The Mount Shu sword god roared in disbelief. The sword in his hand was also trembling, as if he did not believe in his own sword and Tao. And this collapsing river, once he had doubts, his will collapsed. The terrifying killing affected him, making him almost lose his mind. Swoosh! At the same time Lin Ling's sword arrived. With a clang it was blocked by the Mount Shu sword god's sword. In terms of strength, Lin Ling was no match for the Mount Shu sword god. His body flew backward and smashed into the ground. However, the Mount Shu sword god in the sky was not any better. Blood dripped from the hand holding the sword. Obviously, he was also injured by Lin Ling's sword. Of course, the most important thing was that he was affected by Lin Ling's killing, which caused his combat strength to weaken by as much as 60%. Why do you have so much killing? The Mount Shu sword god's eyes were red as he stared at Lin Ling. If you don't kill, these killings won't affect you. On the ground, Lin Ling looked at him indifferently, then ran in another direction. The Mount Shu sword god wanted to chase after Lin Ling, but in the end he held back because he was still affected by the killings. His Tao heart was unstable, and he almost lost himself. If he didn't kill, the eternal killing world wouldn't affect him. Unfortunately, as the sword god, how could he not kill? Bang! The Mount Shu sword god fell from the sky and then sat cross-legged on the ground, resisting the killing from the illusion with all his strength. It was as if he had entered the world of slaughter that Lin Ling had once entered. His soul was in turmoil. He never thought that he would be defeated. He pursued the supreme Mount Shu sword mantra, but he forgot to improve his state of mind. This was his biggest flaw. Although he managed to escape, at least he gave me some pointers. He clearly told me where my flaws are. After the Mount Shu sword divine weapon pondered for a moment, it was no longer angry. Instead, it was incomparably happy. As a swordsman, what he wanted to know the most was where his flaws were. He originally thought that he was no longer afraid of slaughter, but now he realized that what he wasn't afraid of was small massacres. He was still too inexperienced when it came to the real universe of slaughter. This Mount Shu sword god is so powerful. At this moment, Lin Ling was running into the distance. Blood was dripping from his arms and shoulders. He had clearly suffered serious injuries after clashing with the Mount Shu sword god. In this short period of time he had fought several gods and demons. This also gave Lin Ling a deep understanding of the Tao Pagoda. His current strength was much weaker in the vicinity of the Tao Pagoda. Not to mention the Tao Pagoda that was the focus of everyone's attention. In the Tao Pagoda, he was probably an ancient god who had founded a sect. Behind Lin Ling, even Lu Tian's expression was constantly changing. After witnessing Lin Ling escape danger again and again, he realized how terrifying Lin Ling's strength was. He had killed 2 old foxes and an old jackal, killed a great demon of the Flying Frost Valley, escaped from the mouth of a strange tree demon, and even killed it. Moreover, he had escaped from the hands of the 4 great demons of the Flying Frost Valley, fought the Mount Shu sword god, and retreated unscathed. Was this still a mid-level god? He thought of the kid he had seen in the Dragon Valley back then, and then thought of the invincible Lin Ling now, and his heart instantly turned cold. It was said that the host body of the world's will was incomparably powerful, and its growth speed surpassed that of tens of millions of gods. However, in front of Lin Ling, the host body of the world's will, he really couldn't compare to Lu Tian. Could it be that Lin Ling was really the host body of the 8th world's will? Would he inevitably change the era in the future? I can't let him live. He is still weak now, and I can still devour him. If I wait until he is strong in the future, I will definitely be devoured. I have to make the first move. A huge pressure rose in Lution's heart. Of course he had to kill Lin Ling. Suddenly Lution's eyes lit up, and the corner of his mouth revealed a sneer. At this moment, Lin Ling was still moving forward, constantly recovering his body. Fortunately, his physical body was strong and he had 8 dantians. In a short period of time, he had recovered more than half. However, it would take a certain amount of time for the various trump cards to recover, at least half a day. Suddenly, Lin Ling's pupils trembled violently, and then he couldn't help but curse. That was because he discovered that the world in front of him had changed. Although the world in front of him was still green with mountains and rivers, blue sky and white clouds, Lin Ling sensed that everything was distorted, and there were layers of death aura. This was a fake world. An expert had used the power of a great divine ability to seal the world in front of him. The most terrifying thing was that Lin Ling discovered that a gray wave of death was spreading in front of him like a tide. Wherever it passed, all the mountains and rivers trembled slightly. It seemed that there was no change on the surface, but in fact it had completely disappeared. That feeling was as if he had entered the underworld. What a powerful technique! Lin Ling stared at a stalk of grass under his feet and discovered that it was filled with death aura. It was the netherworld grass. This meant that the gods of the underworld had come. Lien Lution, you have angered me time and time again and challenged my bottom line. I will remember this grudge. Gritting his teeth, Lin Ling said calmly to Lien Lution behind him. Naturally, he could guess that all of this was because of Lien Lution. At this point it's either you die or I die. What's the use of saying all this nonsense? Lien Lution smiled ferociously. Since he had already shed all pretenses, there was no need to pretend anymore. Do you think you can escape just by capturing me? What a joke. You don't even know that I'm with the underworld god. He knows my whereabouts very well. Lien Lution continued, now the underworld is my backer. You want to go against the underworld alone? You're dreaming. Moreover, the underworld god has already promised me that if you die, the power of your worlds will belong to me. Ha ha ha, Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, I'm looking forward to seeing you, the host of the 8th world's will. How powerful are you? How far can you allow me to grow? In the future, I want to dominate the entire universe. Chapter 48-47. Hearing Lin Ling's words, Lution sneered. Naturally, he did not believe Lin Ling's words. He said indifferently, you'd better think about how to deal with the problem in front of you. All right. Lin Ling ignored him and stared ahead. Now, he had already been through a few waves of pursuers. This wave was probably the most difficult one, because this wave came at the right time. It appeared when Lin Ling was at his weakest. Underworld Blood Sea. Yes. Suddenly, on the mountain peak in front of him, gods in gray armor appeared. They opened their hands and summoned the powerful underworld Blood Sea, which surged toward Lin Ling. The underworld Blood Sea was a terrifying sea that washed away the memories, strength, and origin of those who entered the underworld. Any god who entered the Blood Sea would be washed away and turned into a blank reincarnation. Of course, the underworld Blood Sea was only powerful in the underworld. But now the gods of the underworld had moved a part of the underworld here, allowing the Blood Sea to descend. Woo woo woo. Another song entered Lin Ling's ears, making him feel dazed. It was as if he had heard the song of life. On the surging Blood Sea, Lin Ling saw an ancient sailboat moving forward. There was only one fisherman on the sailboat. He was topless and wore a straw hat. He stood on the bow of the boat and looked into the distance. Come, cross the other shore with me. From now on, you will live forever and be free from the suffering of this world. The fisherman's voice was old like a guiding light. After the fisherman's song, endless illusions appeared, as if saying that money, fame, beauty, and strength were all for nothing. Lin Ling's eyes were blank, but at this time, a clear current flowed into his mind, causing Lin Ling to instantly wake up. He found that the clear current came from the universe's 3 extremes break. When he took a closer look, he found that the so-called fisherman was actually a skeleton. This skeleton drove the tattered boat and rolled in the Blood Sea. It was incomparably terrifying. This underworld blood sea is too strong. A thought appeared in Lin Ling's mind. He did not stay any longer and fled in another direction. When the netherworld gate opens, everything in the world will submit. However, seeing that Lin Ling was about to leave, the underworld deities on the surrounding mountain peaks formed complicated seals. At the same time, numerous bronze gates appeared in all directions, sealing the various great universes. Bang bang bang. The gigantic bronze gate was like the great laws of the universe. When it suppressed the sky, a terrifying power surged into the earth, annihilating everything. Although this was the Tao realm, it was clear that the Tao realm's netherworld laws were the same as the primal chaos realm and the void of the 9 prefectures. After the gods here died, they would enter the netherworld and disappear forever. After a total of 18 netherworld gates appeared, the color of the entire world became even darker. At the same time, a strange feeling enveloped Lin Ling's entire body. He discovered that he had been sealed, and he couldn't leave the netherworld. And at this time the terrifying sea of blood from the netherworld surged over, sealing off any direction that Lin Ling could escape in, causing Lin Ling to have nowhere to hide. Lin Ling, your life is up. Quickly return to the netherworld. Moreover, the King Yanluo from the netherworld gate also appeared from the netherworld gate. The Book of Life and Death appeared in his hands as he read Lin Ling's name. He wanted to ban Lin Ling. My life is in my hands, Lin Ling. Since when is it your turn to talk nonsense? Lin Ling looked up and sneered. Lin Ling, your life is up. Quickly return to the netherworld. However, the King Yanluo from the netherworld gate had a cold expression. His eyes were filled with disdain, and he didn't care about Lin Ling's words at all. Lin Ling looked around trying to find a way to escape. However, the netherworld gate was too strong, and he had used up all his trump cards. He couldn't block it with just his innate talent. Splash, splash, splash. In the end, Lin Ling was submerged in the sea of blood. He tumbled up and down, and a large number of skeletal arms appeared, pulling Lin Ling down into the sea of blood. Get out of my way. Lin Ling unleashed his strength and continued to blow up these skeletons. Rumble. A large number of skeletons exploded, but there were too many skeletons around. In the end, the sea of blood stopped flowing and began to retreat, leaving behind an endless number of skeletons. This was a sea of skeletons. Lin Ling's entire body was grabbed by a large number of skeletal arms and sank down. Looking from afar, this scene was incomparably terrifying. How pitiful! In the distance, even Lution was gloating over the misfortune of the other party. The eyes of the King Yanluo from the netherworld gate flashed as he sneered. Lin Ling was very famous in the netherworld. He wasn't afraid of the god of the underworld and challenged the great laws of the netherworld. The netherworld had long wanted to bring him to justice. However, Lin Ling's luck was good, and he had repeatedly escaped the pursuit of the netherworld. This time Lin Ling couldn't escape. As long as he entered the netherworld gate, everything would be decided by the netherworld gate. No matter how powerful Lin Ling was, he would become a cripple. You want to kill me? Dream on. Being pulled by countless skeletons, Lin Ling also roared as he activated all the divine power in his body and blasted it towards himself. And this method was suicide. Hold him back. Seeing this scene, the various King Yanluo roared and struck out with the laws of the netherworld, causing the sea of skeletons to rise into a monstrous wave and drown Lin Ling's head. You want to commit suicide? It's not that easy. Seeing Lin Ling being taken away by the sea of skeletons, the King Yanluo sneered. Suicide, although it was also entering the netherworld because Lin Ling was a god, it might be difficult for him to reincarnate and directly disappear in the universe. Moreover, even if he could reincarnate, Lin Ling would only be reincarnated into the path of the beast and suffer tribulation after tribulation. However, the purpose of the netherworld gate was to keep Lin Ling alive and imprisoned in the netherworld gate forever. How could they let Lin Ling die so easily? And now Lin Ling was drowned by the sea of skeletons, which meant that Lin Ling had been completely brought into the netherworld gate. Even the ancient gods could not resist the netherworld gate. Go back. Then the King Yanluo said indifferently, closed the gate of the netherworld gate, and disappeared without a trace. Hee, it's finally settled. The gods of the netherworld standing on top of the mountain laughed excitedly. They formed complicated seals and withdrew the sea of blood from the netherworld gate. Rumble! A huge black hole appeared, and the billowing sea of blood flowed in reverse and finally disappeared. Unfortunately, no one saw that when the sea of blood flowed in reverse, a five-colored light also quietly appeared and floated into the sky with a figure. And that figure was Lin Ling. Lin Ling still had one chance to be protected by the Dao realm. He had used it in the end and escaped from the Dao realm. This was something that no one knew. Lin Ling is finally dead. At this moment, even Lution let out a light breath and took a step forward, flying toward the gods of the Netherworld Gate. Lin Ling is a great enemy of the Netherworld Gate. The god of the Netherworld has wanted to capture him for a long time. And now his wish has finally come true. We have also made a great contribution. Even Lution, you have also made a great contribution. The gods of the Netherworld Gate looked at even Lution and said. And they were all extremely happy. Ha ha, we are really lucky. When the gods of the audience said this, even Lution was even happier. Then he suddenly thought of something and asked curiously, did you sense the power of Lin Ling's world will? Chapter 48:48. At this moment under the gray sky, 18 figures flew past like death gods. They were the Yama kings of the underworld. After hearing the voice transmission from the underworld gods, they immediately stopped and tried to find Lin Ling in the underworld blood sea. However, after searching for a long time, they did not see Lin Ling's figure. Not good, Lin Ling is gone. A Yama king frowned. How is that possible? How could Lin Ling escape from the underworld blood sea? Moreover, the underworld gate has locked onto him. How could he escape? Another Yama king's face became serious. Quick, inform Lien Letian and the others immediately. Another Yama king shouted anxiously. At this moment, in the area of the Dao Pagoda, Lien Letian was following the underworld gods. One of the underworld gods smiled and said, Lin Ling's world will power? It's okay, the Yama kings will find it for us. After all, only you can devour that power now. It's useless for us to have it. This is Lin Ling's returning to heaven position. Lien Letian, you can keep it well. Lien Letian immediately took Lin Ling's returning to heaven position. He looked a little excited because he knew very well that Lin Ling's returning to heaven position contained a lot of Dao realm fragments. The number was astonishing. Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, I didn't expect you to let me off so easily. Lien Letian laughed. After seeing Lin Ling's returning to heaven position, he was even more certain that Lin Ling was dead. After all, in the area of the Dao Pagoda, only after the death of a god would the returning to heaven position drop. The Dao realm fragments in Lin Ling's returning to heaven position are enough for everyone to enter the Dao Pagoda. Lien Letian looked at the underworld gods and said, these gods were also from the heavenly underworld sect, so they were considered his own people. Thank you, Your Excellency Lien Letian. Hearing Lien Lishan's words, the underworld gods smiled. They were naturally very interested in the Dao Pagoda. At this moment they didn't know that in the Lin Ling universe, a man had appeared there, coldly looking at the entire void. This man was Lin Ling. Previously, he had used up his last chance of protection of the Dao realm and finally escaped back to the void of the 9 continents at the critical moment. When he thought of Lien Letian and the previous assassination attempt, Lin Ling's eyes turned extremely cold. If this was my universe, a mere underworld blood sea would be nothing. Lin Ling snorted coldly. He investigated for a bit but didn't do anything for the time being. This was because Lin Ling still needed some time to recover his trump cards. Once he recovered, Lin Ling would definitely kill his way back. He was very clearly aware that the Netherworld entrance and Netherworld blood ocean required a certain amount of time to set up. Moreover, his Dao regression heavenly seat had already been taken away. No matter what, he had to get it back. The Lin Ling universe is getting stronger and stronger. Next, Lin Ling sat cross-legged in the void and continuously cast out the grand laws of the universe that he had learned in the Shrine of Ice. Bang! It was as if a heavenly drum was being beaten. Every time it was beaten, the entire void of the universe would tremble. At the same time, The void of this great universe became more stable and quietly expanded. The spiritual qi also became denser. After a long time, Lin Ling opened his eyes, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. This was his territory, his world. My universe is still lacking a bit of foundation. I need to nurture some gods and demons that are endowed by nature. Lin Ling pondered. Controlling the laws, he set up universe treasures in every corner of the universe. With the grand laws of the universe, these places could give birth to incomparably terrifying gods in the future. Just like the ancient gods like the Yellow Emperor. Master, this is Master's hometown. At this moment, a voice came from Lin Ling universe. Although the voice was soft, as the master of the universe, Lin Ling could naturally hear it clearly. He discovered that there were many people entering his Lin Ling universe, but they came from various large realms and were extremely unfamiliar. However, these people were blocked by Ancestor Tien and the others. Let them come in. Lin Ling smiled. He instantly knew the origin of these people. Back in the path of domination in the void of the 9 states, Lin Ling was brought into the reincarnation of life and death by the strong beings of the underworld. During one of his lives, he was the leader of a sect. He witnessed his disciples being killed. Later, Lin Ling awakened, broke the reincarnation of life and death, and brought the souls of these disciples back. Furthermore, Lin Ling had left behind a divine ability for them to find hosts for them. Now these disciples had all grown up, and their strength had become extremely powerful. It's really strange. The opportunities one gave them were obviously very ordinary, but they grew so quickly and have the strength of a lesser god. After that, Lin Ling was secretly shocked. With a wave of his right hand, a large number of young people appeared in front of him. These people were very confused at first, but after seeing Lin Ling, they all trembled and knelt down. Greetings, Master. Although it was the first time they saw Lin Ling, they were familiar with Lin Ling. Get up. Lin Ling said calmly. Thank you, Master. Everyone bowed respectfully. They knew very well that their master was a giant god, an omnipotent expert. This is the Lin Ling universe. You can stay in this universe and cultivate in the future. When you become a superior god, you can come and find me again. Go. Lin Ling waved at everyone. At the same time, a gentle light enveloped everyone, making them feel like they had been reborn. Chapter 48-49. On the vast land, a dozen figures were flying into the distance. They were none other than Lien Letian and his companions. They were talking and laughing as though they were about to embark on a grand plan. Behind them, a figure was quietly following them. It was as though he had disappeared into the universe, making it difficult for anyone to detect him. 19 people plus Lien Letian, that's a total of 20 people. This person was Lin Ling. He discovered that among the 19 people in front of him, 12 were late-stage high gods while the rest were mid-stage high gods. The opponents were very strong. If he were to fight them head-on, Lin Ling would be at a disadvantage. However, Lin Ling could defeat them one by one. Moreover, he discovered that his celestial Dao throne was in Lien Lishan's possession. This made Lin Ling somewhat relieved. If the celestial Dao throne was in the hands of those late-stage high gods, it would be very difficult for him to snatch it back. I just need to kill a few of them and rob Lien Letian. Then I can leave. Lin Ling thought to himself. He remained motionless and quietly followed them. At this moment, Lien Letian and his companions were still talking and laughing as though they had made a great contribution. However, as they walked, Lien Letian suddenly frowned and said, logically speaking, since Lin Ling has been taken away by the underworld, the opportunity he left in my soul should have disappeared. But why can I still feel it? Bone King Realm Sealer, has King Yama of the underworld replied? One of the late-stage high gods looked at Lien Letian and said with a smile, don't worry, the underworld's blood sea has never failed. The opportunity in your soul has not disappeared. As it is the energy of the soul dissipates slowly. In a few hours you will not be able to feel it anymore. This man was tall and wore a black robe. He looked like a pope. Bone King Realm Sealer is right. Lien Letian could not help but nod upon hearing the black-robed man's words. Oh no! However, before they could be happy for too long, The Bone King Realm Sealer let out a loud roar. He looked extremely anxious. What's wrong? Lien Letian frowned instantly. Lin Ling has escaped. The Bone King Realm Sealer looked at everyone and finally said word by word. Escaped. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed greatly. How could this be possible? One had to know that that was the attack of the 18 Kings of Hell, and there was also the Blood Sea of the Underworld. How could Lin Ling escape? I'm guessing that Lin Ling was never caught from the very beginning. Bone King Sealer's eyes were gloomy as he pondered. No wonder the opportunity he left in my soul still hasn't dissipated. Turns out that he really didn't die. What should we do now? Even Letian knew that things were getting troublesome. He looked at the gods of the underworld and said. The gods of the underworld fell silent. They didn't know what to do. Wait, Lin Ling's Tao regression heavenly mandate is in our hands. If he's still alive, he'll definitely come looking for us. Suddenly the Bone King's eyes lit up. That's right. Lin Ling's Tao regression celestial plane has a large amount of Tao realm fragments. Now that I've obtained all of them, he definitely won't give up. Even Lutian was extremely certain. Just as the team thought about it, a terrifying massacre suddenly came. The last few people in the team were killed by a sword. They were unstoppable. This sudden sword was a sneak attack that caught them off guard. Most importantly, the murderous aura was too strong. By the time they reacted, their heads had already been separated from their bodies. These experts from the underworld didn't have Tao realm fragments to protect them. This meant that after they were killed, they were completely dead. Lin Ling really came. The tall Bone King Sealer stopped in his tracks. His long robe fluttered as he looked coldly into the distance. Whoosh! But at this moment another sword came. It was fierce and murderous. Then, another god from the underworld was killed. Lin Ling is right here. Even Lutian's eyes narrowed. He didn't know why, but he was a little flustered. The main reason was that Lin Ling's sword was too sharp. Killed gods like killing chickens. Other than late-stage high gods, mid-stage high gods couldn't block it. Very fast. It's probably at the speed of 1,000 worlds. The Bone King Sealer muttered to himself. Not only that, Lin Ling can erupt with the speed of 20 million worlds. I've seen him use this speed before. Even great demons who are good at speed can't catch up with Lin Ling. In addition, Lin Ling also has the ability to kill with a single strike. It's an extremely powerful technique. However, Lin Ling was clearly taken away by the underworld. How did he manage to escape? Even Lutian knew that he was no match for Lin Ling. He could only pray to the Bone King Sealer. Therefore, he told them about Lin Ling's powerful techniques. I've never seen these techniques that you mentioned. However, I am also very curious. Is a mere mid-level deity really that powerful? The Bone King Sealer's body shook. Waves of nether energy spread out like a dense fog, enveloping this part of the world. The other gods from the underworld also looked around indifferently, as if they were facing a great enemy. For a moment the atmosphere was strange and oppressive. Lien Lutian stood around the gods of the underworld. He narrowed his eyes, waiting for Lin Ling's appearance. Whoosh! Another sword came. Among the gods of the underworld, another one fell. He was killed by a sword. Whoosh! Terrifying killing intent intertwined in the nether energy as if it had materialized. It was extremely terrifying. However, the Bone King Sealer still did not move. He looked around indifferently and finally said with certainty, Lin Ling is indeed here. Everyone listen up. Prepare to activate the underworld blood sea. This time, no matter what, Lin Ling must stay here. I reckon that Lin Ling was able to escape from the underworld blood sea because of the protection of the Tao realm. This time, he won't be able to escape. Lien Letian, stay by my side. Lin Ling is here for you. If you don't leave, he won't escape. The Bone King Sealer waved his robe and kept giving orders. When the gods of the underworld heard this, they formed complicated seals and began to summon the underworld blood sea. Generally speaking, to summon the underworld blood sea, everyone had to work together. However, a few of them had been killed earlier. In addition, Lin Ling would not allow them to summon the blood sea as they pleased. Therefore, the Bone King Sealer decided that he would hold off Lin Ling, while the other summoned the underworld blood sea. The Bone King Sealer was very sure that as long as Lin Ling's Tao reversion was still here, Lin Ling would definitely not escape. Lin Ling, come out. The longer you delay, the slimmer your chances of escaping. Seeing that everyone had begun to form seals, the Bone King Sealer spoke faintly. His eyes looked down at the white snow mountain as if he could see through Lin Ling's location. However, the vast expanse of white snow mountain was completely silent. Chapter 4850. Therefore, he took the initiative to ask Lin Ling to come out and fight. He was confident that as long as Lin Ling dared to come out, he could suppress Lin Ling and even capture him alive. Moreover, even if Lin Ling's strength was not bad and could fight against him for a while, when the blood sea of the underworld arrived, Lin Ling would still be unable to escape. This was the confidence of the Bone King Realm Sealer. Pa! At this moment, a dark shadow finally appeared on the white snow. This shadow was very small at first, but it gradually grew bigger. It was like an ascetic slowly walking over from afar. He wore a gray robe and held a unique sword in his hand, as though he was a heretical cultivator. It was Lin Ling. Lin Ling, you really escaped. Seeing Lin Ling, even Lu Tian's heart skipped a beat, and he became inexplicably nervous. He was very clear that after Lin Ling escaped last time, the difficulty of capturing Lin Ling had undoubtedly increased by several times. Lin Ling, you are really powerful. However, if you want to return to the heavenly realm, you must defeat me. The Bone King Realm Sealer also stared at Lin Ling. With a wave of his hand, a huge bone knife appeared in his hand and he pointed it at Lin Ling from afar. Then come and try. A sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand and he also pointed it at the Bone King Realm Sealer. This was also the first time he fought against a late-stage high god. Talent Fusion Grey Robe appeared. Lin Ling's footsteps paused and he disappeared on the spot. A sword seemed to have slashed down from the sky. 200 million force erupted and the eternal killing world appeared in the sword. It was as though it had slashed down the universe, and it arrived in front of the Bone King Realm Sealer. Stairs. The bone knife in the Bone King Realm Sealer's hand shook violently and he swung it at the sky. With a loud boom, the snowy ground was split into two and a terrifying divine energy soared into the sky. Bang! Bang! When the sword and saber collided, it was as if two huge universes were colliding, forming a terrifying shockwave. Meanwhile, Lin Ling maintained his posture of slashing down with his sword. The ferocious power of God clashed with the saber light from the bone saber. His figure slowly retreated, and the Tyrant Song sword continued to tremble. In terms of pure strength, Lin Ling was clearly no match for the Bone King's Realm Sealer. However, at this moment the universe of massacre came crashing down from the Tyrant Song sword. It was formless and colorless, and it could affect the Tao heart of a god. Not bad. Is this the steps of God? That's not right. It seems to be a power that's even more powerful than the divine steps. I reckon it's a magical ability from the ancient times. However, I'm from the underworld. You're dreaming if you think you can affect me with just killing. The Bone King Realm Sealer also had a powerful divine stare, and it had reached the ancient realm of the six great realms. This divine staircase was a dream, the Bone Dream Staircase. It could cause any divine bone to tremble and shatter. According to legend in ancient times, there was an ancient giant god who was proficient in this type of divine staircase. With a single move, if the opponent didn't have any means to resist, all of the bones in their body would shatter. It would be as if they had entered a dreamland, and their entire body would turn into mud. Rumble. A deafening sound rang out. Lin Ling instantly sensed that the bones in his body were about to shatter. What a powerful move. I can't block such a powerful divine staircase in addition to the power of God. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. He was about to use his trump card. However, at this moment the Bone King Realm Sealer on the ground shouted, "How is this possible?" He saw that the terrifying universe of massacre had affected his heart, causing his strength to weaken by more than 60%. Once his strength was weakened, the pressure on Lin Ling also decreased. I'm from the underworld. Why can your massacre affect me? At the same time, the Bone King Realm Sealer raised his head and looked deeply at Lin Ling. He was shocked by Lin Ling's move. His saber pointed at Lin Ling again, but this time he didn't attack. Lin Ling also looked deeply at the Bone King Realm Sealer. He was shocked by the latter's strength. If the Eternal Massacre World hadn't affected the Bone King Realm Sealer's heart, Lin Ling would have been injured. This meant that Lin Ling had been careless and underestimated the strength of a late-stage high-level deity. All along, Lin Ling's heaven-defying strength had caused him to be complacent. Now the Bone King Realm Sealer had taught Lin Ling a good lesson. It should be known that the current Lin Ling didn't have the protection of a Dao realm expert. If he died because of his carelessness, he would really die. To show my respect, I will fight you with all my strength. Stepping into the sky, Lin Ling pointed his sword at the Bone King Realm Sealer. On the huge sword, murderous aura was surging. So this is the universe of Massacre World. The Bone King Realm Sealer stared at Lin Ling's sword and completely understood why Lin Ling could affect him. Realm. The Bone King Realm Sealer let out a low roar. Countless bone fragments flew out from his body, as if he was trying to seal this world. They rolled in all directions. I will kill you with all my strength. Under the sky full of bone fragments, the Bone King Realm Sealer said coldly, "Come." Lin Ling looked behind the Bone King Realm Sealer and realized that the underworld deities were summoning the underworld blood sea. This made him know that he had to end this quickly. Pengu's strike. Lin Ling let out a low roar and raised his sword up high. This was the first time he used Pengu's sky-splitting slash in the tyrannical song sword and merged it with the Eternal Massacre World. What a strange move, but what's the use of it? Underworld Great Hell. The Bone King Realm Sealer roared and activated the surrounding bone fragments, turning them into bone blades and forming the Underworld Great Hell. This was the bone-piercing hell. Ding ding dang dang. However, when the Bone King Realm Sealer wanted to interrupt Lin Ling's sword, Lin Ling shot down from the sky like a meteor and a giant. When the Bone King Realm Sealer's bone-piercing hell hit Lin Ling, it was blocked by Lin Ling. What kind of move is this? The Bone King Realm Sealer's eyes trembled. Seal Demon Seal. The Bone King Realm Sealer roared and activated an even more terrifying move. The Underworld Great Hell spun crazily and attacked Lin Ling again. Rumble. A deafening sound echoed. The space was constantly being cut, and the scene of the underworld was revealed. This made Lien Letian gasp. He didn't expect Lin Ling to not be afraid of the Bone King Realm Sealer's powerful deity force. Bone King Realm Sealer. Lin Ling has a move that can ignore deity force. You have to use other moves. Lien Letian suddenly shouted. The Bone King Realm Sealer's eyes narrowed. Ignore deity force? What a heaven-defying ability. He didn't know that this was Pengu's earth-shattering strike. Sky-splitting slash. At the same time, Lin Ling's sword arrived and ruthlessly slashed down, destroying heaven and earth. This slash was different from usual. It was fused with the eternal killing world. When it ruthlessly slashed down, the entire snowy land was swept away and completely melted, turning into nothingness once again. The Bone King Realm Sealer raised his head, his eyes trembling. He didn't understand how a mere mid-god could erupt with such terrifying power. Underworld Silver Gate. An old song-like voice rang out. The Bone King Realm Sealer had actually summoned the Underworld Gate. Moreover, it was the extremely rare Underworld Silver Gate. This was the Underworld Gate above the Bronze Gate. According to legend, if this gate didn't appear, it would definitely bring the most ancient giant god into the underworld. His pupils were trembling and flickering. All of a sudden, his entire body exploded, turning into bones that coiled and spiraled, gradually turning into a huge bone saber. This blade was extremely extraordinary. It was formed from the bones of countless deities, and it was enormous. It was thousands of miles long, and as it hung in the air, it released a terrifying aura from the underworld. His blade slashed towards the heavens, colliding with Lin Ling's sword of slaughter. Boom! Before the two terrifying attacks collided, the surrounding area was completely destroyed. Lien Letian was too close to Bone King Sealer. He was blown away by the strong wind and buried in the ground. However, He quickly rushed out and stared at the sky with the most terrifying expression in his life. Too strong. Lin Ling's strength was simply beyond his imagination. This blade of mine, high god divine embryo. Bone King Sealer's voice exploded. Rumble. The saber and sword began to collide violently, exploding with deafening sounds. But what was surprising was that the collision of the saber and sword was extremely slow. It was as if two old men were fighting a slow tug of war. But in everyone's eyes, this wasn't a tug of war, but an illusion formed because the two attacks had gathered too much power. If one was in the middle of this collision, they would realize that the speed of the collision wasn't slow, but faster than one could imagine. Saber and sword, cosmic rays, and the silver door of the underworld. At this moment, it attracted the attention of countless people. The gods from the underworld were shocked. Only after witnessing it with their own eyes did they realize how terrifying Lin Ling's methods were. Most importantly, it wasn't just one method but several methods. Not good. After the two forces collided for a long time, Bone King Sealer let out a low roar. His voice was filled with anger and unwillingness. This was because he realized that Lin Ling's strength had too many negative effects. For example, the universe of slaughter had weakened his strength. The cosmic rays had caused his soul to continue to tremble. And that sword that could split the heavens and earth made him feel like he was facing the most ancient god, opening the universe. In fact, Bone King Sealer also had a power that affected Lin Ling. However, Bone King Sealer felt that compared to his influence, Lin Ling's was weaker. For some reason, Lin Ling's foundation was incomparably solid. The negative effects on both sides were minimized. Is there a loophole? Be defeated. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes were red. It was as if he was fighting against an incomparably terrifying storm. He knew very well that although he seemed to be able to fight Bone King Sealer, he was relying on his killer moves. Without these killer moves, Lin Ling would not be able to withstand Bone King Sealer's full-powered attack. This also meant that Lin Ling was fighting with his back against the wall. If all his killer moves could not defeat Bone King Sealer, Lin Ling would definitely die. Fortunately, the combination of several major moves was indeed terrifying. Bone King Sealer was injured and began to retreat. Rumble. Cracks appeared on the bone saber that he had transformed into, and it finally exploded. The silver light in the sky, which represented the oldest gate to the underworld, was slowly closing. Humph! Bone King Sealer grunted and retreated. Suddenly, a huge millstone appeared behind him and sucked all the cosmic rays into the millstone. Lin Ling's earth-shattering sword slash was instantly blocked by the millstone. This millstone seemed to be used to grind people to death. It was extremely powerful. It was probably passed down by the god of the underworld. After Bone King Sealer blocked Lin Ling's killer move, he stared at Lin Ling without saying a word. However, Lin Ling noticed that Bone King Sealer was injured and did not dare to act rashly. He secretly felt lucky. Several killer moves erupted at the same time, and finally defeated Bone King Sealer. Late-stage High God was indeed amazing. Penga Strike. Absolute soul shock. Without waiting for Bone King Sealer to react, Lin Ling moved at full speed. It was as if he had pierced through the void and instantly appeared behind Bone King Sealer. Then he grabbed Lien Letian and flew away. Lien Letian was still shocked by Lin Ling's thunderous moves. By the time he reacted, he had already been kidnapped. Even his voice was only halfway out. Lin Ling. As for Bone King Sealer, he stood in the same place and did not move. Only a low voice came out of his throat. My lord. At this moment, the other underworld gods stopped summoning the Blood Sea and flew toward Bone King Sealer, wanting to ask him how he was doing. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.